The desert of Karen, the frontier planet, is always so heartless, with yellow sand leaping like a giant breath, devouring everything that is not its own. Enxi held the exploration maker tightly, and the wind slapped her protective mask, making a low buzz. She is a member of the Alliance archaeology team. She is only 25 years old. She is specializing in these forgotten corners, those alien fragments that can be replaced by the Alliance's supplementary points, so that the family can take a breath. Another empty, she murmured, wiping the sweat beads of her head. Karen is the last line of defense of the Alliance. The Imperial teams have spread like viruses, and the home defense network has been full of holes. Every time Eun-hee takes the job, she feels like a computer. No matter how hard she tries, she can't resist the storm that is about to arrive. The feeling of powerlessness was like sand, burying her passion without any sound. Today is a routine exploration. She drove the old off-road car and followed the abnormal magnetic field signals. The instrument shows that this was once a borderline belt of lost civilization, and it is said that there are hidden technologies that can change the situation. But Eun-hee didn't have expectations. Last month, she dug out only a pile of raw alloy fragments, and it was not worth it to sell them to the black market. The car parked in the edge of a secret island valley, and the sand stopped a little, revealing the hidden cracks on the rock wall. Eun-hee jumped out of the car, carried her tool kit, and climbed up the steep ramp. The air was filled with the fishy smell of metal, mixed with dry dust, making her nasal cavity burst. "Come on, give me some surprise," she said self-deprecatingly, activating the scanner. Behind the crack is a hidden cave. The entrance is sealed by winding stone blocks. She opened the road with a laser cutter, and the stone chips fell like rain, hitting her boots and making a crisp sound. Pushing the last rock, a dark blue light rolled out from the depths, illuminating her face. Enxi's heartbeat was accelerating. It was not an ordinary cave. The walls were filled with ancient runes, moving slightly like living things. What is this? She stretched out her hand and touched a rune, and the cold touch penetrated her fingertips like current. In an instant, a strange buzz filled her brain, not a sound, but a pure torrent of information. Quantum signal. Enxi's eyes widened. The runes were no longer rigid patterns, but were automatically spelled like spellings, telling her that they were telling a story, the guardian shield of lost civilization, an energy field that can distort space. Her consciousness seemed to be pulled into the depths, and there were countless light spots in the field, forming a vast blue picture. Eun-hee shook her head and tried to throw this illusion, but it was too real. Suddenly, the ground was moving, and the machine at the entrance started. An energy net fell from the sky, and the electric arc of Fengli blew towards her like a whip, and the smell of ozone was filled with the burnt smell of ozone. Die! Eun-hee instinctively retreated, but her steps were on the stone block. She flashed the blue picture in her brain, the order of runes, the path of energy flow. It's not thinking, it's straightforwardness, and it's clear the answer like instinct. She suddenly pressed a bump on the wall and murmured, 3 on the left, 7 on the right, reverse rotation. The arc stopped in the air and then dissipated like a receding tide. The buzzing bird of the machine stopped abruptly, and she stood calmly, and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but snoring. Is this what I did? She easily cracked the entrance gate and avoided the deadly trap. Those runes are now as clear as palms in her brain, and she can read them, as if they are wandering in a low voice, sharing their secrets. From an ordinary archaeologist to a woman with this ability changed so quickly that she was trembling with excitement. But the joy didn't last long. The cave is deep and the sound of footsteps, heavy and orderly. Enxi turned around, scanner warning masterpiece. 3 figures entered from another channel. They were wearing the gray and black Imperial uniforms, with cold eyes under their masks, and the guns in their hands were flashing with blue light. A spy of the Alliance? This is the Empire's territory. The leader's man growled, his gun aimed at her. Steal what you found, or don't want to go out alive. Eun-hee's heart sank. Imperial spy. How are they here? She should have escaped, but her legs were like a thorn on the ground. The crisis in the homeland has emerged again, the images of the Imperial fleet bombing Karen, countless people flying in dust. She has been unable to change, what about now? Quantum signals rush in the body, igniting something like fire. Her vision expands, and she senses the energy flow around her, the remote junction, the hidden protection field. Want to catch me? Try it. Eun-hee sneered, her voice unexpectedly determined. She looked at the guide and pressed her palm on the wall, and the runes lit up. Energy storms out like a tide, forming an invisible shield that distorts the air. The spy opened fire and hit the shield, making a harsh burst sound, as powerless as glass shattered. The head man rushed forward, and the dagger drew over the shield, leaving only a spark. This is impossible, he was shocked, falling down when he retreated. Eun-hee felt the potential awakening in her body. The signal not only deciphered the runes, but also strengthened her perception. She flew away from the attack of the second spy and grabbed the stone block on the ground. No, it was a fragment of debris. After injecting energy, it turned into a light blade, easily slashing the other party's gun. The third spy tried to encircle the picture, but Enxi had already knew the way, so she whispered, "Spread." The shield was thrust, and the energy waves were like invisible fists, shaking the three of them, hitting the wall, and blew the noise. They fell to the ground, their masks shattered, revealing their terrifying faces. Eun-hee stood there, her chest undulating. It's so easy to kill the spy who retreated to the Empire. The feeling of being captured in a crisis is like shackles. She touched her arms, and there seemed to be a current flowing under her skin. From powerlessness to self-confidence, is this growth? It's not just strength, but a sense of responsibility for the home. She wants to protect Karen, no longer a slumber, but a guardian. The engine was transmitted outside the cave, and a starship landed, shattering sand. Enxi rushed out of her senses and saw only a weak man jumping off the drive, carrying a toolbox in his hand. He wore the engineer's protective lens, his face was covered in oil, and he smiled happily. "Hey, miss. Are you okay? I'm Li Cheng, the maintenance engineer of the Alliance. The energy fluctuation just now pulled me from the maintenance station. Look at your starship. Oh, wait, your off-road car is broken. The spy from the Empire left behind?" Enxi was stunned and scanned him. There was no enemy, the toolbox was standard Alliance equipment. She pointed, it was their bullet that wiped the engine. "My name is Eun-hee, from the archaeology team. Thank you for being there at a time." Li Ji squatted down to check the car, and said on the side, "These guys in the Empire love to do small moves. I have repaired a lot of ships that were blown up by them. This small problem can be solved in 10 minutes. What did you just fuck in it? That energy field, like a lost civilization thing?" And she took a moment of hesitation and decided to try out. "Believe it or not, I just cracked a spy. There is a quantum signal inside, which makes me understand things. Those spies were going to catch me." Lizzie blew a whistle, and the tool turned around in his hand. "Quantum signal? It sounds like a story. The Alliance needs such talents. Lizzie, most of the sneakiness of the Empire. If I had been the ones, would have blown their fleet to the sky. Come and help me get the weld gun." They chatted side by side, and Li Yan's humor resolved Eun-hee's tightness. He talked about the embarrassing incident of being almost blown up by the Empire when he repaired the ship last time, which made her laugh. Through interaction, Eun-hee sees his personality clearly, loyal, straightforward, like a reliable brother. After repairing the car, Li Cheng patted her on the shoulder. "Next time, please contact me. The Alliance needs you like." Just as they were about to leave, Enxi's communications came on, an encrypted channel. The picture is blurred and only comes to the female voice. "Enxi, I am Yu Yen. The guardian of the message has woken up. The secret of death is not only this, we need to join forces. The greater pride of the Empire is about to emerge. Your home, Karen, will be the first goal." The screen is broken, leaving only thoughts. "Sure, Yen." And she held the telecommunication device and felt more confident. Protect the planet, starting now. Terms, 1287. The off-road car engine growled in the yellow sand, like a tired wilderness, dragging Enxi and leaching toward the temporary camp. The sun was as bright as blood, and the shadows were raised in the desert of Karen. Outside the car window, the wind's sand kept slapping the glass, making fine sand hit the sound, mixed with the buzz of the engine, making Enxi's brain scatter the remaining quantum signals. Her fingers knocked on her knees inadvertently, and the strange flu inside her body was still there, as if something had been implanted in her body, quietly changing her. Hey, the quantum signal you just said sounds like a science fiction novel. Li Ji held the direction plate, glanced at her, and smiled at the corner of his mouth. I've repaired so many broken ships, and I've never seen anything that can make people feel ready. Wouldn't you be infected with any alien virus? Is it hot? Do I want me to park my car to measure your temperature? And she smiled lightly and shook her head. Li Cheng's humor is like a fire, dispersing the tact of just now. Not a virus, it's direct. Those runes are now in my brain, as clear as the map. I can see the path of energy flow, the prototype of the shield, something that can twist the space, and blow up the Imperial fleet. She put it on, her voice falling down. If this is true, our home will be saved. Karen can no longer be trampled under their feet. The eyes are sincere. The bastards in the Empire, the last time I exploded the frontier station, I watched an Alliance patrol ship being blown into smoke by their quantum cannons. The Alliance needs to turn over. If the shield you said was real, I'll run it to the end. The engineer's toolbox will not only repair cars. The campground appears in the sight, a low metal tent clustered with several parking garages, and the air is filled with the smell of oil and synthetic food. And she jumped out of the car, took a deep breath of the air carrying the dust, and felt that her feet finally stepped on the ground. Scanners and splinters scattered on her work platform in her personal module tent. She sat down and activated the holographic projection. The signals in her brain were like a tide, and the rune blue pictures spread out in the air, like a living focal picture. Look here, she pointed to the core of the projection, saying, this is the thread of the energy source. There is a middle at the depth, and the quantum signal is emitted from it. If we activate it, the shield can cover the entire galaxy, not a small fuck, but a real guard. The study of the eyebrow is close to each other. The structure is like an old-fashioned force field emitter, but more advanced. The output needs to be strengthened, otherwise the energy will be lost. I can modify a lid-type amplifier, but I have to go back and get the parts. He patted her on the shoulder. Your brain is now a gold mine. Does the Alliance archaeology know? As the voice fell, Enxi's communication device vibrated again. This time it was video, the picture was stable, and a pretty woman appeared in the holographic circle. She has short hair, her eyes are as sharp as stars, and behind her is the background of a star-like star-turning station, with a light flashing light. Enxi, I am Eun-hee. The message is connected, I feel your awakening. The guardian of the lost civilization has never stopped. Enxi's heart beat faster, and the quantum signal was on her brain, like a two-strand current exchange. Eun-hee. How did you received it too? She approached the screen, and Eun-hee's image was clear, with a tired and calm expression. The words are singing, and the sound is like a wind passing through the valley. I've been in the year, and when I was monitoring quantum waves at the border station, the signal came to me. It gave me the ability to strengthen energy, the auxiliary type, which amplified the output of the shield. But I can't crack the depth of the zodiac. My family, they lost their border colonies in the Empire, and the signal showed that there were wires in the zodiac. Maybe it was captured by the Empire. Enxi's throat was tight, and the images of the home flashed. Karen's children shivered in the air raid shelter, and the shadows of the Empire were like Eun's top. I understand your pain. I dug these miserables to protect Karen. The Empire's fleet is getting closer and closer, and we can't wait any longer. Come on, team. We have engineers who can repair anything. Yuyan's eyes lit up and the corners of her mouth slightly swelled. Okay. Come by my starship and arrive in 2 hours. Let's uncover this secret together, for the sake of the family and for the family. The communication broke and Enxi turned to Li Cheng. She's here. We're teaming up and returning to the edge. Contact Tianyi first, he is a senior expert, or maybe no more. Li Ji whistled and grabbed the communications slap number. The old man loves to tell antique stories, and this time it's time to be on the stage. Tianyi's image soon appeared. An old man with white hair was in the background of the bookshelf of the Alliance file library, and the holographic scrolls were circling like a galaxy. Enxi. The fluctuations of quantum signals have been transmitted to the center. Have you activated the Karen Desperate? Lost civilizations, they are called the Guardians, a race that was thousands of years ago, using a shield to resist the storm of the Silver River. The energy source is in the middle, and requires 3 levels of verification, reading, strengthening, and stability. You have the first level, and I heard that there is a girl with the second level. Be careful of Choi Hao, the Imperial agent is like a shadow, specializing in technology. Enxi clicks his head, and the blue picture in his brain is clearer. Teacher, the wire points to the secondary entrance on the edge of the road. How do we go deeper? Tian-Yi narrowed his eyes and shared a string of historical data. The reverse urge of the rune is opened, but the Empire has set its sights. Remember, the signal is not a gift, it is a responsibility. It chooses you because your heart guards the homeland. Go, I'll monitor it. After the break, Enxi's heart sank. Is it responsible? Where does this ability come from? Is it a desperate ambition or a coincidence of the universe? She felt that she was no longer the powerless archaeologist, but the actor who was pushed to the stage. The pain of growing up is like sand grinding her hands, but it also makes her even more impoverished. 2 hours later, Yuyan's starship landed, the hot waves of the engine rolled up the sand, and the lights of the ground shook in the night. Yuyan jumped off the door, her tall figure wrapped in her flying suit, carrying an energy backpack. Enxi, Li Cheng. Time is not long, and the Imperial detective machine has been scanned on the road. They 3 quickly boarded the ship, the starship darted like a silver arrow towards the edge of the ruins. In the cockpit, the instrument lights illuminated everyone's faces, the air was filled with the smell of metal and electricity. Enxi sat in the co-pilot's seat, the quantum signal pulsed like a warning, the enemy is near. Forward has heat source, Li Cheng stared at the radar, 3 Empire off-road vehicles, with armed Choi Hao's lackeys. Yuyan gripped the control stick, voice calm. Land at the edge canyon, set ambush. I strengthen your shield, Enxi. You predict their path. The starship dived, engines roared deafeningly, Enxi closed her eyes, signals intuitively surged, left wing canyon has hidden point, the enemy will flank from the east side. She opened her eyes, whispered, they split into 2 routes, main team straight charge, we block the east side. Li Cheng, fix that spare gun turret. After landing, they scattered. Night wind howled, gravel like needles stung the skin. Enxi hid behind the rock, perceived the enemy's footsteps, Choi Hao's voice leaked from the communication, catch that woman, the quantum signal is ours. The first wave of agents rushed, 5-person team, pulse guns flashed blue light. Enxi's intuition flashed the path, she lowly shouted, now. Leaped out, energy shield unfolded, like an invisible net. Agents fired, barrage hit the shield, sparks burst. She predicted the second person's side dodge, grabbed a ruins fragment injected with signal, turned it into a light blade thrown out, directly hit the opponent's shoulder, that person screamed and fell, counterkill first success. Her movements became faster, from passive to active, the fight like instinct, currents in her body like war drums, pushing her growth. Another agent sneaked from behind, and she sidestepped, the shield rebounded his dagger, shook him flying to the rock wall, a muffled sound echoed in the canyon. The third person tried to call for support, she foresaw, through an energy pulse, paralyzed his communicator. The refreshing reversal made her heart warm, this is power, not luck, is her own progress. Choi Hao's roar sounded, damn, Scatter. His team main attacked, reconnaissance drone descended from the sky, laser swept the ground, heat waves scorched the air. Eun-hee leaped down from above, backpack lit up golden light. Enxi, borrow power. She activated the auxiliary golden finger, palm pressed on Enxi's shoulder, energy like a flood injected. Enxi felt the shield expand, output doubled. She raised her hand, reinforced wave surged out like a giant wave, directly hit the reconnaissance drone. The machine emitted a shriek, engine exploded, fireball fell into the canyon, fragments like rain smashed the ground, destroyed clean and neat. Empire agents retreated in shock, Cui Hao cursed and withdrew. This is not the end. Li Chen rushed out from behind the starship, toolbox jingling. They scratched the engine, I'll fix it. He knelt down, welding gun flashed light, sweat mixed with sand and soil dripped. In a few minutes, the starship hummed back to life, resolved the mechanical crisis. Board the ship. Their reinforcements are coming soon. The three leaped onto the starship, Eun-hee piloted and pulled up, the canyon receded behind. Enxi leaned on the seat, panted and reflected, the source of the signal, perhaps is the Guardian clan's call, awakening her potential. From solitary archaeology to team combat, she felt rapport taking root, Li Cheng's reliability, Eun-hee's toughness, like the shield's pillars. Tianyi's communication accessed, good job. Secondary entrance is open, go deeper. The protective shield's core, waiting for you. The starship sailed into the ruins' edge's hidden crevice. In the darkness, runes began to pulse, foretelling deeper secrets. The starship's engine growled as it slid into the crevice, the deep blue rune light pulsed like a heartbeat on the rock walls, illuminating the narrow passage. The air became stuffy, with an old metal smell and a faint ionized ozone, making Enxi's skin slightly sting. She sat in front of the cockpit, hands pressed on the control panel, quantum signals surged into her mind like tides, guiding the starship to avoid hidden energy traps. From passively relying on intuition to now, she felt like she was piloting a ship of her inner self, sailing towards the unknown. Steady, Eun-hee released the control stick, turned to look at everyone, short hair slightly swayed under the lights. This crevice is like a living maze, the runes are responding to your signal, Enxi. After going in, we have to rely on the team, I strengthen output, you interpret the path, Li Chen handle the machinery. Li Chen poked his head out from the rear cabin, carrying a modified toolbox, face spotted with oil stains. No problem, I just upgraded the scanner, added the ruins frequency bands adapter. Those mechanisms? A piece of cake. He grinned, patted the box, inside the welding gun and quantum probe jingled. Eun-hee, your energy backpack also needs me to check, maybe we can link it. Eun-hee nodded, her eyes softened a bit. She unzipped her flight suit, took out a small chip from the inner pocket, handed it to Li Chen. This is my auxiliary module, can amplify energy flow. But after family went missing, I've been working alone, no one to help tune it. In the Empire's edge colonies, they captured people, the signal shows, there are records in the ruins. Perhaps for digging similar technology, as slave labor. Enxi's heart sank and she turned to look at her. Tell us the details. Your family, like my Karen, are victims of the Empire. We are not in order to fight the war easily, but to dig out the truth and make them pay for the price. Eun-hee took a deep breath, and her voice was filled with rare trembling. My brother is an engineer and missed at the neighboring station 3 years ago. The Empire's announcement was an accident, but the quantum wave record shows that their fleets were snatching around there. When the signal came to me, it pointed to this escape, the Guardian's file library, or maybe there was an Empire's certificate of technology. I not only wanted to strengthen the shield, but also wanted to find him. Li Chen stopped the work in his hand and patted her on the shoulder. Speak, girl, we're the team. Those bastards in the Empire, I repaired their blown ships and owed them to repair them. Come and give me 5 minutes, I'll synchronize your module with Eun-hee's signal. Their conversation was like fire, illuminating the atmosphere inside the car. Eun-hee felt that the tacit understanding was deepening, and her heart warmed from strangers to her partners. The starship was stable, they wore masks, carried the equipment, and stepped into the core of the wings. The passage was like a giant trunk, and the runes on the wall accelerated, emitting a low buzz, responding to Enxi's approach like a heartbeat. The ground was slightly slim, and the air was filled with a pungent smell of silence, and the sound of footsteps was rumbling on the metal floor. The frontal connection, Enxi said in a low voice, and the signal suddenly burst into pieces, an energy door that locked the invader. The rune sequence is 3 circles in the countertime and injects the slug. Li Qing squatted down, and the upgraded probe inserted into the wall, sparking 4 times. I'll calm down the structure, don't move. He explained, this tool can now borrow the energy of the excess to crack. Look, the door is open. The energy door retreated like water waves, revealing the core hall, a circular dome with a luminous crystal prototype floating in the center, the core of the shield source, with detailed runes engraved on the surface, and a circle surrounded by holographic projection films, flashing images of lost civilization. The air was refreshing, carrying the softness of the blue light, and Enxi's skin felt as if it was being slapped. That's it, Enxi murmured, heading towards the crystal. Quantum signals flowed in like a torrent. She closed her eyes and saw a historical fragment in her brain. The Guardians, the races thousands of years ago, they used guard shields to fight against the storm and invaders. The image unfolds like a movie, the giant fleet reborn behind the shield, the energy distorts the space and turns the laser cannon into a harmless star. Enxi's voice was rumbling in the car, and she couldn't help but explain, their technology is not a weapon, but a guard. The shield source can generate quantum fields, absorb attacks, and reverse 10 times. But when she was lost, the predecessor of the Empire, an ancient empire, took part of the blue map, which led to the Silver River War. The sage is approaching and his eyes are lit up. Look at the module interface, it matches my backpack. She pressed her palm and helped the golden fingers to activate it, and the golden light was injected into the crystal. The energy stormed like a river, the prototype trembled slightly, and it was initially awakened, a small protection field spread around, and the blue light was like a thin fog, testing the rocks falling, and the sound of shattering came. Successfully strengthened, said Yu-yen excitedly, the output has increased by 30%, but it is not stable. Eun-hee, can your message stabilize it? At this moment, Tianyi's communication was connected and the holographic images appeared. His white hair was flashing under the light of the file library. Children, I monitor the wave. Activate secondary energy, Enxi, inject your direct vision into the core rune, Yen, maintain output, integrity, monitor the structure. The history of the Guardians is not only guarding, they foresee threats like the Empire, leaving a counter password. Enxi clicked his head and pressed the crystal on his palm. In the history of signal fusion, she transforms directly from direct perception and actively controls, not passively receives, but directs energy flow. Inner heart, I see it, this is not a gift, it is a call. I am no longer an archaeologist hiding in the sand. I want to take the initiative to guard the Alliance so that Karen will no longer be trembling. The sense of mission is like a fire, rushing into her heart, making her hands as stable as a rock. The energy field is enlarged, the prototype is buzzing, and the second-level activation, the blue light is pouring out like a tide, and the hall is stable. But the alarm, radar shows an intrusion. Cui how? Li Yen growled and stared at the scanner. He brought teams and came in from the side channel. Laser cannons are deployed, trying to get data crystals. Cui hao's voice heard from the communication, and was as cold as a snake. The gangsters of the Alliance, this shield origin belongs to the Empire. If you hand it over, it will be blown up here. The entrance of the hall exploded, Cui hao led 5 agents in, laser cannons were set up, red light was stored, and the air was burning and distorted. He was wearing reinforcement armor, his eyes were flashing under his mask. Woman, I'm on your phone. Data is uploaded, and the Empire will give you a way out of life. Eun-hee sneered and stood in front. The team spread out, Li Qing grabbed the tool gun, and Yu-yen activated the backpack. Come on, it's the second time, do you still want to play? The laser cannon opened fire, and the first red beam shot towards the crystal like a sharp sword. Enxi actively fuses the signal and the repelling energy, pushes forward with both hands. A temporary protection field is generated, such as an invisible giant shield spreading, the space is twisted, and the laser hits, causing a harsh explosion, and the energy rebounds 10 times, directly hitting Cui Hao's team. The agent shouted, the armor melted, and a man was swept into the wall, and he was rumored to death. Impossible. Cui Hao avoided, and the reverse beam of light brushed over his shoulder, burning his uniform. He opened his gun and shot the curtain, but Enxi controlled the field, easily twisting the path, and retaliated like a raindrop. As she felt refreshed, she felt invincible, not about luck, but about control. The joy of growth is like current, which makes her pace stable. The sage Yen climbed up to the high platform, strengthening the waves injected into Enxi's field, and the output surged. Hold it, she shouted, while sharing the thread. The signal shows that the Empire used similar technology to capture my family. There is a file in the deepest part of the world. The Licheng thrusts to the side wing, upgrades tools like turrets, shoots out the electromagnetic network, and destroys the weapons of the two agents. Go to your data. He yelled, cracking a connection, and the wall collapsed to hold Cui Hao's retreat. Cui Hao retreated, the laser cannon exploded, and the firelight illuminated his shocked face. Retreat. This woman has changed. He also dropped the smoke and spread the hall. The agent dragged the injured man to escape, his steps were as chaotic as a dog. The smoke dissipated, and she took back the field, and the crystals were stable and stable. The team gasped and gathered, and her mission was flooded with her heart, not only Karen, but the entire alliance. From direct to control, this turn makes her stronger. Tiany's image flashed, fuck well. The shield prototype has woken up, and the deep secret is waiting. But Cui Hao will not stop, and the Empire's fleet has locked up Karen. Continue to go deeper and uncover the counterattack password. At the depths of the hall, a new door opened and the blue light led the way, indicating a greater challenge. Enxi clenched her fists, the team followed, and her pace was fixed. The blue light extends like a bulge in the deep passage, and Enxi's steps echoed rapidly on the metal floor, and his heartbeat synchronized with the buzzing bird. She held the shield prototype tightly in her hand, and the crystal was as warm as a living thing, and the runes on the surface were slightly swaying, as if she was whispering a vow to guard. The three of them in the team were furious, and the air was filled with a burning smell of electricity, and Cui Hao's smoke swelling was still dissipating, making the vision hazy. Quick, side channel. Enxi pointed in a low voice, and the quantum signal scanned the path ahead like thunder. From personal cracking machine to now actively guiding the team, she felt that she was no longer a lonely wolf, but a light tower. Yu Yan was carrying an energy backpack, and the lights of the reinforcement module reflected her face. Licheng dragged the upgraded toolbox, and while breathing, he still complained, this broken place is more numb than the shack of the Shou Empire. Is the prototype stable? Don't explode halfway. Still, Eun-hee turned her head, her voice as if she was ordered. The signal shows that the exit is 200 meters away. But Cui Hao's reinforcements are coming soon. Lita has a hot track. They turned into a narrow branch, and the runes on the wall accelerated to warn like a warning. Suddenly, an explosion came from behind, and Cui Hao's roar was heard, don't let them run away. Close the exit. Yu Yan turned around, her backpack was full of golden light. She injected a wave of energy into Enxi's prototype. The crystal buzzed up, and a temporary force opened behind her, like an invisible wall holding the slam of the pursuer. The curtain hit the force, bursting with a sharp burst, sparks filled with heat and waves. Li Ji grabbed the tool gun and shot out an electromagnetic impulse, damaging the machine door of the channel, allowing it to close. Fuck beautifully. Enxi shouted, and the team accelerated its forward. The blue light from the exit was lit in front of them, and they rushed out, and the night wind rushed towards them like a knife, and the sand rolled up, mixing with the smell of freedom. The starship was on standby outside the island valley, and the engine was roaring, and the light pierced the darkness. After the load was uploaded, Eun-hee pulled the control rod violently, and the starship rushed into the night sky like a silver arrow, and the leap turned black behind her. Enxi leaned against the seat, put the prototype on her lap, and a tired joy arose in her heart, from digging sand without any effort to escape from the leader. Is this the feeling of leader? She took a deep breath, the communication device rose, Tienny's image appeared, and her old face was filled with worry. Children, have you got the prototype? Okay. Karen's road warning has been reported, the Empire's pioneer team's inspection, and a preliminary invasion. Return to the frontier planet, test the shield source on the road. I will teach you the secrets of the Guardians later. But remember, Cui Hao's guy is like a dog plaster, don't take it lightly. The starship accelerated, the engines rushed to the wall, and the stars outside the window retreated like a river. Eun-hee pointed out, Teacher, we will guard Karen. Eun-hee, prepare for optimization output, be honest, strengthen the starship defense network. Li Qing pulled out from behind, and the toolbox was slammed. He knelt under the console, welding the gun with a flash of flame. Give me 10 minutes, I'll connect the starship's power transmitter with the prototype. The Imperial guide? Let them taste the backlash. Sweat dripped down his head, mixed with the smell of oil, filling the steamer with the busy heat. Eun-hee approaches the prototype, presses the crystal on his palm to help activate the golden fingers, and the golden light is injected like a wire. I optimized the energy path, and the output could reach a peak of 50%. But when testing, Eun-hee, you have to point out the stimulus. The signal is your direct view. The blue will profile of the planet Karen is expanded and enlarged, and the warning lights are flashing on the track, and the Alliance's communication channels are in a mess. The Empire's detective ship is approaching. Small fleets, 3 ships, pioneers and guides to launch. Enxi stood up, clamped the prototype, and the quantum signal moved like a war drum. She felt that the team's eyes gathered, Eun-hee's trust and honest reliability, which made her from personal adventure to leader. Activate the shield. Versus, inject, establish integrity, set goals. The starship entered the road, outside the window, 3 Imperial detective ships approached like birds, the black hull reflected starlight, the guide door opened, and the red tail flames lit up in the sky. The first wave of guides popped out like a swarm of bees, dragging the fire tail, and swelling the Karen air layer, and the burnt smell of war could be heard in the air. Come! Li Ji shouted, the Star Fleet Defense Network opened, and the blue force was like a net. But the guide was too fast and too dense, and he gritted his teeth, I can't hold it back, I have to rely on the shield. And she closed her eyes for a moment and saw it in a flash, a blue map of energy flow, a path to expanding. She squinted her eyes and yelled in a low voice, expand. Devouring mode. With both hands pushing forward, the prototype crystal burst out with blue light, and the shield energy surged out from the star plane like a tide, instantly covering the surroundings of the duct, forming a giant quantum field. The space is twisted, as if the universe is browsing. The guide bomb crashed into the arena, and the first touching blue light reduced speed like a wall of swamp. The energy was swallowed and turned into an invisible vortex. The second and third waves followed one after another, and the fire tail pierced in the field, making a low buzz, and then, exploded. It is not a destruction of Karen, but an internal explosion. The energy of the guide is absorbed by the shield source, and it pops up into a blue slug, directly hitting the launch source. It's great! Eun-hee couldn't help but shout. Her optimization made her stable, and the field devoured everything like a living thing. The Imperial police warden was making a big fuss, the hull was shaking, the first test was avoiding, but the bolts were like whips whipping the engine, the fireballs were placed on the track, and the debris were spread like smoke. The second laser cannon opened fire, and the red beam was shot, but was distorted by the field and turned into a harmless star. The backlash energy made it self-destruct, and the storm shook the wall. The third ship turned around and fled, but Enxi pointed and said, closed. Full. The shield energy doubled, and Eun-hee's enhancement injected into the peak, and Li Cheng's defense network assisted in positioning. The blue vortex caught up with it, swallowing the tail of the ship, and the explosion of the raid waves were like thunder, making the starship light and dirty. The entire small fleet flew in gray smoke. The stairs returned to tranquility, leaving only the dead bodies rolling in the air. The Alliance's communication channel bombed. What? Invasion Pioneer full. Who fucked? Enxi's image was released, and the voice was cold. Enxi, the archaeological team, we have the shield of the Guardian clan. Karen is safe. The Alliance should pay attention to the crisis of the Empire. We are here to reverse. After initially noticing, the team relaxed their voices and burst into laughter. Li Cheng slapped the table. Boss, this shield is a magical artifact. My reinforcement makes it like an iron barrel, and the dogs in the Empire can't even hear the nose. The starship landed at the Karen camp, and the yellow sand flew under the light, and the air was filled with a fresh and vigorous smell. Enxi took the prototype and lowered the ship. The team followed, leaving deep marks on the sand. The camp was alert and the Alliance soldiers were respected, but her direct feeling sank. Something was different. Cui Hao, she murmured, quantum signal dying, sensing the heat source of the disgusting installation. The edge of the site, Alliance engineer, repaired the installation, with familiar faces and flashes of eyes. Who is there? Enxi strode forward, and the soldiers opened it. She looked at the man directly. Take off the mask, Cui Hao. Your heart is out of stock. The man was stunned, then sneered and tear off his mask. It was Cui Hao, who was hiding under the work clothes, and had a gun hidden in his hand. Smart, woman. But I'm going to make up your information. He lifted up, his gun flashing with a blue light. Enxi did not retreat and took a step forward. The team was scattered, and the words were prepared to strengthen, and the tools were grasped with integrity. But she had already acted. She knew the way, and the shield energy flowed out from her body, like an invisible fist. She avoided her body, and injected the prototype's remaining energy into her left hand, turning into a light blade and stabbing Cui Hao's shoulder. The slam brushed her arm, and the burning pain was like fire, but he was subdued and could not get up. The gun melted. Where is the information? Cui Hao gasped, his eyes filled with resentment. You have become stronger. But the Empire will not stop. The soldiers dragged him away, and she turned around, and the team gathered. Yu Yan's eyes were wet. Thank you, Enxi. My brother's thread. Tiany's communication access, he shared the file in the holographic holography, the secret of the Guardians. The shield source can be upgraded to a cosmic weapon, fused quantum signals and enhanced output, and can distort the space of the entire galaxy and turn enemies into friendly countermeasures. But deep activation is required. The blue map obtained by the Empire is the key. Their ecstasy is not only invasion, but also reshape the order of the Silver River and use lost technology to be enslaved. Enxi pointed at her head, and felt determined. From personal adventure to leadership team, this turnaround allows her to see the overall situation clearly. Unveiling the bigger story is not for the sake of pleasure, but for all the homes. She held the prototype tightly. We upgrade it. The hero of the Alliance, starting with Karen. Outside the camp, the Empire's far-distance warning was approaching, and a new wave of shadows approached, but the team's eyes were as indestructible as a shield. Yu Yan wiped her eyes dry. Next step, will you miss the Imperial station? Eun-hee smiled and said, go together. Keep guarding, never be alone. The yellow sand breezes, and the lights of the starships flash in the night, indicating a more intense war. The lights of Karen's camp swayed in the yellow sand, like a lonely beacon. Enxi stood outside the tent, and Feng Sha slapped her face lightly, bringing a hint of warmth. She held the shield prototype, and the blue light from the crystal reflected her wheel, and the quantum signals in the body were as whispered as a whisper, reminding her that it was difficult to achieve success. Yu Yan and Li Qing disassembled the equipment beside them. The air was filled with the smell of oil and sand, and the soldiers' pace was rumbling in the night. The communications suddenly buzzed, and the Alliance's high-level encrypted channels were accessed. A serious middle-aged man appears in the holographic projection. He is Li Zhe, the director of the Defense Department. The background is a star map of the Central Command Hall, with a cold light. Captain Eun-hee. Your stalking battle report has been spread throughout the Alliance. Shield source prototype. This is the transfer. High Level invites you to join the Silver River Defense Program and go to the Central Star Domain immediately to provide technical support. We need your ability to protect the entire Alliance. Enxi's heart beat faster and the quantum signal moved like current. She glanced at the team, and said with a slight look, giving a thumbs up. Minister, thank you for your trust. But Karen is my home and I won't drop it. I plan to join, but we have to deal with the Empire's border threat first. Choi Hao's data shows that they have something hidden in the border subsite, and the upgraded parts may be there. Li Zhe's eyebrows were slightly anaconda, and a silk silhouette was flashed in the projection. Choi Hao has been arrested. Okay. But there is suspicion inside. Gao Lai received anonymous information, questioning your source of shield. It is the interdisciplinary technology of the Empire. Choi Hao insisted that you were the loser during the interview. We will investigate, but be careful of the ghost. Enxi's throat was tight, and the cloud's storm fell into her heart like sandstorms. An inside ghost? Choi Hao's move. She was angry and her voice was calm. Minister, I will show you. Let's give us time, we will go to the border and bring back the certificate. The communication broke out, and she turned to the team and said, Choi Hao is not that easy to recognize. He planned to penetrate the inside and wanted to destroy our reputation. We can't wait. We will set out tonight to penetrate the remote location of the border of the Empire. There are upgraded parts of the Guardians that can turn the shield into a cosmic weapon. Yu Yan's eyes lit up, holding the energy backpack tightly. Agree. My enhanced module sense should be there, or maybe there is a thread from my family. Choi Hao's data mentions the Imperial experiment station, which is nearby. Li Qing patted the toolbox and grinned. Insider. Let them come, I have repaired the internal system that is better than this. I've just upgraded the starship, and I can slip through the hidden mode. Let's go. The starship quietly flew in the night, and the engine was low like ears, avoiding the Alliance's patrol network. Eun-hee sat in the sidekick, outside the window. The stars were like rivers, and Karen's blue wheel was silhouetted far away. Her heart sank. Suspicion is like a demon in her heart, doubting her ability. Is it really reliable to go from a powerless archaeologist to a hero? The trust of the team is the pillar, but if you fail, what about the home? 2 hours later, the starship penetrated the Empire's borders. A deserted planet, Zelda, has a windy scattered location on the surface, like a giant spine. Latest scan shows that the Empire's outpost is hidden in the valley, with lights flashing, and patrol unmanned aircraft buzzing across the night sky. The silence drove down and the starry sky was wrapped in a shaped force field, landing on the edge of the island valley like a ghost. The air smelled of sulfur, and the footsteps were pressed on the sand and made a fine sound. They wore masks, carried the equipment, and walked towards the entrance. The entrance machine is complex, Enxi said in a low voice. The quantum signal slightly ignited, sensing the path of the runes. Choi Hao's allies are setting traps in it. We are divided. Yu Yan will understand it with me, and set up a loyal and block the way back. The passage is dark and wet. The runes on the wall appear like scars, and the air is thrilling. Suddenly, a hidden energy net popped out, and the blue arc blew like a whip, and the smell of ozone spread. Enxi instinctively retreated, but the inner demon flashed. Did he miss it? She took a deep breath and felt as if she was silent. No, I am a guardian, not a slut. Press the wall with your palm and the signal flows in, a new wave. A stronger quantum signal is drawn from deep, like a torrent injecting into the brain, unblocking the blue picture, an energy upgrade module that can make the shield distort the time fragments and anti-attack the way forward. Advanced. Enxi shouted, his eyes flashing blue. She actively controls her, and the new signal is like a fire and ignites confidence. The energy network stopped, and she easily reversed and dissipated like a tide. The pleasure swelled up, from being moved to being expected. this change made her pace light. In the front hall, Cui Hao's allies, 2 Imperial agents and a sickly alliance, were guarding the upgraded components, a luminous alloy core floating on the energy platform. Laser traps are spread around, and red light is like a network interface. Ji Ju sneered, "A alliance traitor, Cui Hao said you will come. The data has been uploaded, and your doubts will destroy you." The agents opened fire, and the wind blew like rain, and the heat waves were swept. Enxi was not panicked, and the new signal knew the way. She shouted softly, "Scatter." The shield was upgraded and opened, like an invisible whirlpool, the space was twisted, the curtain turned back in the air, and the agent was shot straight. The explosion sounded, and one person's breastplate melted, and he fell to the ground with a cry. The other person tried to avoid it, but he knew that Enxi pushed his side, and the energy wave hit his knee like a fist, and he couldn't get up. Shocked, the laser network activated, "Go to die." The red beam swept, and the hot air twisted. But Enxi's shield has been upgraded, and time fragments are reflected like mirrors. She senses to stimulate and twist easily, laser backlash, burning the arms of the focal, and surrendering. The captives were easy and turned against a military force. Enxi felt invincible. This was not aura, it was control. The team's eyes were full of admiration, and she showed her leadership charm, crossing up, establishing integrity, and asking data. Li Qing rushed forward, the tool gun electromagnetic beam was used to cut off the captives, and said, "Cui Hao's hand. This is a proof of the internal penetration of the alliance. The high level will trust us." He turned to the energy table, upgraded parts buzzing, and he squatted down to welding. "This core is bad, the Empire tried reverse engineering, but the structure is unstable. I fixed it and move your prototype." Yu Yan approaches the component, presses the palm on, strengthens the golden fingers to activate it, and golden light is injected. She closed her eyes, and the module felt depressed. "Wait, here is recorded." The image appears in the holographic, the screen of the Empire experiment station. Yu Yan's brother was escorted, and the excavation was similar to the eclipse, and the background was the taboo technology of the Guardian clan. Her voice was trembling, "Brother, he is in the depths of zeal." They used him as slave labor to resurrect the void-devouring device, a taboo weapon that can devour galaxies. Enxi's heart ached, and the purity of Yu Yan's touching the demon. She recalled Karen's child and felt powerless. "Can I really protect everyone?" But Yu Yan held her hand. "Enxi, thank you for bringing me this thread, we can save him. Your shield is not just strength, but hope." Emotional coexistence is like current, Enxi's inner heart changes, from self-doubt to determination. She breaks through the inner demon, pushes forward with both hands, strengthens the integration of new signals, controls a stronger shield. The blue light spreads like a tide, covering the hall. Energy swallows up the trap, and refreshes to reverse all doubts. The joy of growing up made her voice bright. "We save him and the alliance. Yu Yan, your strength is the key, have the parts fixed." "It's done." Li Ji stood up, his core was stable, and he injected into the prototype. Shield source buzzer, upgrade is completed, output doubles, and you can predict a greater range of threats. Tianyi's communication access, he flew with white hair in the holographic circle. "Children, I checked the file. Lost civilization has ancient connections with the Empire. The predecessor of the Empire was a traitor of the Guardians. They used taboo technology, and the Void Devourer was a witness. That thing can twist the core of the Silver River, and after resurrection, the Alliance was completely destroyed. Cui Hao's penetration is a cover, and the real purpose is to delay you. Return to the center, bring parts, and the high level will clear the doubts. But be careful, the main team of the Empire has locked up Zelda." Enxi pointed at the head, and the tacit understanding deepened during the interaction between the team. She patted Yu Yan on the shoulder. "Family, let's look for it together." "Li Qing is ready." Li Qing smiled. "Boss, you are like a soldier now, I hear you." Yu Yan wiped her eyes. "Emotions make me stronger, thank you." They evacuated the prisoners and the stars were flying, and the patrol of the Imperial Empire approached and the laser shot. But Enxi's upgraded shield opened like a giant net swallowing attack, turning into a fireball, falling lightly. The pleasure burst out, the team shouted, and the stars under the night sky shot towards the center like arrows. On the way back, Enxi stared at the galaxy outside the window and thought to herself, leadership is not an order, but a common bird. The doubt dissipated, and the greater crisis was waiting, but she was ready. The light of Zelda went away, and the shadow of the void-devouring device approached quietly. The starship's engine growled in the air, and the silhouette of Zelda's rim has become a black spot in the rearview mirror. Enxi leaned on the finger chair, the shield prototype swayed in the knees, and the upgraded blue light was as steady as a heartbeat. Her fingers gently smeared the surface of the crystal, and the quantum signal was like an old friend, indicating the storm. Yen was driving, her short hair was slightly blown by the airflow in the lower body. Li Qing knocked on the tool behind her, and the humming sound of the upgraded parts mixed with his humming voice, filling the room with a quiet and calm. The signal in the central star field is weak. Yen glanced at Leda, and her voice brought a warning. The interference in the Empire is getting stronger and stronger. Cui Hao's guy must be making trouble behind him. Enxi pointed his head and his heart sank. The days of digging pieces from the sand seemed to be far away. She is no longer the powerless archaeologist, but the woman who carried the family. Don't worry about him, go back to Karen first. The high-level investigation has not yet been completed. We have obtained the value of shield source, defending the border is the best evidence. The voice fell, and the communication device burst out with a harsh warning. The image of Minister Lizé flashed, his face was blue, and red spots on the background star spread like a plague. Enxi. The main Imperial fleet broke through the border defense line and rushed Karen. 50 warships, prototype test ships with void-devouring devices. The Alliance patrol team is fully trapped, where are you? The high-level command has been ordered, Karen is the defensive point, but if you have a shield source, go back to defend. Enxi's heart is like an ice cave, and Karen's images flash, the children in the yellow sand, the lights in the home. Stop it. No. She stood up suddenly, Minister, will arrive in 5 minutes. Shield source has been upgraded and can swallow their attacks. Tell the Alliance that Karen will not fall. Lizé hesitated for a moment and pointed, be careful, Cui Hao's flag leader. He is here to the camp and vows to give you a message. Speed. The communication was interrupted, the starship accelerated, the engine was like a war drum, and the stars outside the window were pulled and grew. Yen gritted her teeth and pulled the rod, full speed. Stay honest, stay on top of the defense network. Li Qing pulled out from behind, and sweat dripped, hold on the top. The Empire's guide rain is coming. I'll seal the door first. His toolbox was slammed, and the fire of the welding gun was flashed, strengthening the force of the starship and swaying the surface. Karen's blue air layer opened like a wound, and they leaned into the trunk, and there was a chaotic look in front of them. The Alliance's remaining troops resisted like a thorn, the black shadows of the Empire were surrounded by wolves, the red light of the laser cannon broke through the air, and the explosive fireballs were released. The ground communication was a group invasion. The Void Devourer is activated, the space is twisted, Karen is finished. Enxi held the prototype tightly, and the quantum signal was surging, and knew the way. Yen landed in the control room. That was the Energy New Year, where we deployed the shield. Alliance team, listen to me and point it back, retreat, give us space. The starship was like a rock smashing into the valley, storm of yellow sand, and the engines burned the ground. They walked out of the door, slapped their masks with the smell of scorched earth in the air. The control room was hidden deep in the rock wall, and the rune door opened immediately. They inserted it, and Li Qing immediately set up a temporary transmitter. The prototype was placed on the central station, and the blue light illuminated the dome. Quick! The Empire's pioneer has been locked, Yen gasped and connected her reinforced backpack, and the golden light was injected into the prototype. I maximize the output, but I need your signal fusion, Eun-hee. Enxi closed his eyes and pressed his hands on the crystal. Multiple quantum signals were like torrent exchanges, the native waves of Karen, the upgraded module of Zelda, and the hidden data transmitted from Tianyi far away. My heart is as white as thunder, from week to this moment, I will no longer escape. The sand in my home has polished me, now, I am a shield. The energy exploded, she slit her eyes and growled, activate. The giant protective shield is opened. The blue light emerged from the control room like a tide, twisting the space, instantly expanding into a quantum field covering the entire Karen channel. The rainfall of the Imperial main fleet descended down, and the fire tail was like a meteor, but it slowed down around the field, like a blue dark blue. The experiment of the void-devouring device produced a low bird, and the space cracks opened, and the test was torn apart the shield, but Enxi's fusion signal was expected to be distorted. She controlled the field to swallow the cracks, and the energy reversed, the black hole of the devouring device, laser, and even the black hole of the devouring device were all absorbed and turned into a huge wave of reversing. Impossible. Cui Hao's roar was revealed from the communication, and his Flag A reinforced cruiser has led the head and the muzzle was stored. 50 Imperial ships hit the shield like oxen. The first wave of 20 ships touched the blue light. The hull was shaking, and the energy was swallowed. The inside exploded and the fireballs were like smoke, and the debris rolled over the track. The reassurance of the reverse situation made Enxi's blood boil, and she felt invincible. From archaeological lenses to the King of War, this change was like a broken stone. The Alliance communication exploded, shield. Karen has defended it. The soldiers shouted, and the slaughter team revived. Yu Yan's enhancement made the peak output. She shouted, Enxi, persist. Cui Hao's flag is breaking through the edge. Cui Hao-ji led his team to abruptly, and his small assault boat dripped in from the shield field and rushed straight to the control room. The boat exploded, and 10 agents came out. Cui Hao led the armor flash, and shot the gun, and the red light came like a net cover. The air was burning, the rock walls were shattered, and the stone chips hit the ground like rain. Woman, your doomsday. Cui Hao sneered and his gun was on the verge of Qin Enxi, the signal is mine, and the Empire will make you regret it. Enxi did not retreat, and the team scattered. Li Ji squatted behind the console, and the tool gun shot out the electromagnetic network, storing 2 agents, go to you. The system has been loaded, I'll repair it. He shouted to Welding, sweat evaporate, and urgently repair the energy circuit of the shield source. The sparks are 4 times, and the smell of ozone is spreading. When Yen climbed up to the platform, and her backpack was golden and bright, maximize output. Enxi, borrow the power. She injected into a torrent, and the energy was like a volcano spraying. Enxi felt the current inside her body storm. She controlled the shield network alone, pushed forward with both hands, and the blue net was like a living creature, and the space twisted Cui Hao's attack path. The slammed into the net, backfired into a blue arc, and directly hit the agent's array. The 3 men's armor melted, and they fell to the ground with a cry. Cui Hao avoided, threw the dagger out, and the cold light grabbed Enxi's throat. But she knew that when she flicked her side, the shield net tightened like a fist, hitting his breastplate, and stuttering. He stepped back several steps and vomited blood. How did you become like this? Because of the home. Enxi shouted softly, the fusion signal made her look like a god, the shield network expanded, swallowing Cui Hao's assault boat, and the energy rebounded and hit his flag. The output of Yu Yan made the net tiles bulge, the flagsmanship blasted in the engine, and the explosion locked. The hull was like a winged bird falling down the road, and the flames blew into the sky. Cui Hao was seriously injured and was dragged onto the escape line by the agent. The wolf fled, I remember this revenge. Tianyi's far-distance communication access, and his white hair flew in the holographic circle. Children, hide the module activation. The Guardian clan's ambition, the anti-attack password is unblocked, the shield source can lock the void-devouring device. He shared the data, and she injected. The shield field shot out like an arrow, piercing the core of the experiment. The black hole collapsed, the body exploded, the sacred empire fled in all directions, and the galaxy on the border was stable. In the control room, the blue light rests, and the team gasps and gathers. Eun-hee took back her hands, put her knees on her back, and sat down on the wall. The warm current surges in my heart. From a weak archaeologist to a hero in the war scene, the road is filled with sand and fire. But now, I have guarded Karen, no longer a slumber, but a guardian. The joy of growth is as gentle as blue light. Eun-hee helped her up, her eyes wet. Enxi, you control the network by yourself, it's too strong. Our elves make this shield not just technology, but family. She hugged Enxi, and in a short hug, strengthening the warmth and trust of her backpack. Li Qing wiped his sweat and patted the toolbox. The system has been repaired, boss. Next time Cui Hao comes, I will weld his armor directly. The team is invincible, ha. He passed the water tank, the three of them clinked glasses, and his laughter was rumbling on the top of the dome, strengthening the iron like erectile dysfunction. Li Zai's message access, Enxi, the high-level believe it. The doubts are cleared, half of the alliance crisis is resolved, the border is stable, but the main force of the empire retreats to the inner domain, and the entire picture of the void-devouring armor is still there. The central star domain calls you and bring teams. The hero's path continues. Enxi clicked and looked at the yellow sand and Karen outside the window. The lights rekindled, we are here. But the home will never give up. The starship engine turned on again, and the blue-tailed flames broke through the night sky, indicating that the Silver River was fighting for fire. Cui Hao's escape was flashing far away, and his shadow had not dispersed, but the team's steps were already like a shield. Number of words, 1248. The blue tail flame of the starship drew an arc on the Karen trail. Eun-hee stood in front of the viewing window, pressing her hands against the cold metal edge, looking at the home where the re-entered life machine was below. The lights in the yellow sand were as bright as stars, and the Alliance's rescue teams had gathered, and the air seemed to have the burnt smell of explosion and the high pitch of vigor. But her quantum signal was as light as a warning sign. Although Cui Hao's escape signal was weak, he was traveling around like a ghost, pointing directly to the neutral star field, the gray area, the Empire, and the Alliance, full of black market traffic and listening stations. Can't let him gasp, Eun-hee turned around and said to the team. Eun-hee is adjusting the interface of the strengthened backpack, with short hair stuck to the base, and wiping the toolbox with a full greasy hand. I swept the data fragments in Cui Hao's flag steel. His plan to retrieve the quantum signal must be hidden in the laboratory of the neutral star field. We followed him and broke his roots. Eun-hee raised her head, her eyes flashed and determined, agree. My brother's thread also pointed to that, the slave labor camp in the Empire, which was located in the remote area. They used the technology of lost civilization as tools to resurrect any taboo things. Cui Hao this time, don't want to run away. Li Ji whistled, grabbed the communication device and shouted to Tianyi, old man, did you hear it? We want to be in the neutral zone, Cui Hao's dog. Give us a historical thread, don't let us run away in vain. Tianyi's image soon emerged, and his white hair swayed under the lights of the file library. He narrowed his eyes and stared at the star map, the Xialda site of the neutral star field. That is the experimental site of the Guardians, and the Empire has long been eyeing it. Cui Hao's plan is to replicate the quantum signals scope module, which can copy your gold fingers and turn them into the Empire's offensive weapon. Be careful of psychological warfare, that kid specializes in playing with the inner demon. I convey the blue picture of your hidden channel, but the Alliance's high level is watching, to prove yourself, Enxi. The starship adjusts its navigation line, the engine growls and slides into the neutral star field with a fog belt, and the window is as chaotic as gray, and the red spots of the Imperial patrol. Eun-hee felt the signal inside her body accelerated, like a rustic word for warning. She took a deep breath of the air inside the metal smell, and her heart sank. Cui Hao's shadow is like a sandstorm, and he always brings back the soil after the victory. This time, I can no longer be so silly. I am holding my home, now it is the entire universe. 2 hours later, the starship-shaped mode landed on the edge of the Yi Valley at the Zeldal site, with sand whipping the walls like a whip, and sulfur smelled into the mask. The team was walking hard, and the footsteps made a fine shattering sound on the gravel. Enxi led the head, and the quantum scanned directly in front. The entrance was hidden behind the wind rock wall, guarding it was sparse, but the energy fluctuations were unusually strong. Choi Ho is in there, she said in a low voice, his heartbeat, I can feel it. Psychological war. Come on. They pry open the secret door, the lights in the passage are dimly lit, and the walls are engraved with twisted runes, like the guardians who are forced to reverse. The air is damp and hot, mixed with the burnt smell of the circuit board. Suddenly, a holographic projection lit up in the hall ahead, and Chui Hao's image appeared. He leaned against the console, leaving Karen's battle scorch on the armor, and a mocking smile was hanging on the corner of his mouth. Enxi, welcome to my home. Chasing me? It's so stupid. His voice roared from the speaker, like a poisonous snake spitting a letter. You think you win if you keep Karen? Your message is the gift of the Empire. Look at this data, your home is the tribute we gave up. Alliance level. Half of it is our bottom. You are just a pawn, from a weak chicken archaeologist to a fake hero, all of which are illusions. Enxi's heart was tightened, and the image flashed through the simulated scene of Karen being blown up. Her childhood memory was like a prick, her parents lost in the Empire's air, and the feeling of powerlessness flowed back like a tide. Chui Hao's psychological warfare was like a sharp blade, poking his soft ribs directly. The fear of suspicion, loneliness, and failure made her hands tremble slightly. Yu Yan held her arm and said, Don't listen, he's cheating. Li Qing growled, Bastard, close your mouth. He rushed to the console, but the laser network popped out, and the red light was like a network. Enxi's vision is vague, and her heart is as unrestrained as a storm. Is he right? Get up from the sand, did I really change? Quantum signals turn into the body, like fire, ignite deep-level potential. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and reorganized the blue map in the sea of brain, not to read, but to predict it. The signal upgraded, injecting consciousness like a flash, and time fragments spread like lenses. She foresaw Chui Hao's next step, data upload, a trap after a psychological collapse. It's over. Enxi's eyes were slight and his voice was like a iron. The transformation of growth is like a broken rope. She breaks through the inner demon and changes from passive direct visualization to predictive mode. The future path is as clear as a palm print. She felt refreshed and sneered, Chui Hao, I have seen through your tricks. The home is not a pity, it is my starting point. Now, I am fighting back. Before she stepped on her hand, she pressed her palm on the data core of the hall, activated the predicted mode, and the quantum signal entered the Imperial system like a virus. As the fingers touched, data flowed into the brain like a flood, the whole picture of Chui Hao's transformation plan. The lens module can copy the signal, transform it into the Empire's void scope, and devour the energy field of the Alliance team. Enxi directly interprets the interpretation and understands the encryption layer, communications sections, team locks, and even Chui Hao's escape board coordinates. Reverse starts. She yelled softly, knowing that the road guided the fingers to dance the virtual interface. The system alarms the masterpiece, and the red lights are like heart twitching. The communication channel of the Imperial fleet instantly, the patrol ships in the neutral star field collided like blind people, and the explosion of fire was released outside the window, and debris hit the valley like rain. The pleasure burst out, and Eun-hee felt invincible. From a psychological victim to a king of the guest, this upgrade allowed her to control the overall situation. Chui Hao's image was distorted and her face turned pale. How is it possible for you? Chui Hao's projection shook. He tried to cut it off, but Eun-hee had locked his end, and the data backlashed like a whip pulled back. Is this a prediction? Impossible. On the machine, her backpack was bright and golden. She pressed and held the reinforcement interface and injected energy into the data core. Enxi, take advantage of the power. The shield is connected, sealing his lens module. Her assisting gold fingers rush in like a river, strengthening the output and allowing the system to load. The lens prototype buzzed and shattered, the blue light shattered like glass, and the ozone smell spread across the hall. Cui Hao's projection flash, he cursed, die, retreat. Li Qing laughed, the toolbox smashed the panel of the experiment device, and the 4 welding gun sparks were welded. Let me come and see this broken. He explained along the way, this device is the energy extractor of the Guardian clan, and the Empire was transformed into a slave tool. Look at this record, the secret of the lost civilization. The quantum signal was originally a cosmic Guardian network, connecting all the wanderings of the Silver River, and can prevent the collapse of the galaxy. But the Empire was ambitious and wanted to twist it into the Imperial network, enslave all civilizations, and make the Silver River kneel down and worship them. Data floating in the holographic, the blue map of the Empire, the void-devouring device fusion lens module, which can swallow the energy of the entire star domain and resurrect the forbidden battle of the lost civilization. Enxi's eyes widened, and the motor deepened like a tide. It was no longer just for Karen, but for the protection of the universe, the aspiration of the Guardian clan. It was no coincidence that she was chosen. She whispered, Cui Hao, what you are trying to do is not just technology, but the fate of the Silver River. We will not let it be destroyed. Before Cui Hao's projection collapsed, he finally hit, the main console is activated, and when the energy blasting device is inverted, red light is shot, and the hot waves burn the air. The agents rushed out from the side, and the 5-man team rushed to the gun and rolled the curtains, and the stone chips flew. Protect the core. Enxi shouted, knowing that the mode flashed the path. She controlled the upgraded shield to expand, like an invisible vortex swallowing attack, rolling into a blue arc, and directly hitting the agent's array. The armor of the 2 men melted, and they fell to the ground. The sage strengthened the waves and injected them, and the shields were extended to seal the side door. Li Qing knelt in front of the device, and sweat dripped on the panel. 10 seconds to reverse. Cracking. His tool gun shot into the electromagnetic pulse, the device stopped blowing, sparks burst out, and the crisis resolved. He stood up and grabbed a piece of data chip. It's done. This is full evidence, the ambition of the Empire, which connects the collapse of the lost civilization. Their predecessors were traitors of the Guardian clan, and now they want to repeat it. Tianyi's communication was connected, and in the image he excitedly knocked on the keyboard, received. Enxi, your prediction, the ultimate mode of the Guardians. The Alliance's high-level shocked, Cui Hao's inner ghost plan was exposed, and the Imperial power in the neutral zone was invaded. But be careful, his main force of the flag is gathered around the star field, and the void lens is about to be tested. Enxi took back the shield network, and the team gasped and gathered. She touched the chip and felt confident in her heart. The protection of the universe begins with the uncovering of this secret. Cui Hao's psychological warfare did not defeat her, but instead created a stronger will. We go, we are so beautiful, we can optimize the chip, we are honest, and the starship is upgraded. The war in the Silver River is just ignited. They rushed out of the hall, with the wind blowing sand, and the starship engine flying. Outside the window, the storm of Imperial troops was like a slaughter, and the explosion illuminated the valley. But laid a new point, Cui Hao's reinforcements, like the approaching of black clouds, indicate a deeper conflict. Enxi clamped her fists tightly, and predicted the verbal words, the next battle, waiting. The starship's engine growled in the gray fog belt, Enxi stared at Leda, and the red spots approached like a pack of wolves. Cui Hao's reinforcements, at least 10 ships, locked their tail flames. The lights in the roof are flashed, and the red light of the warning reflects the faces, and the air is filled with the burnt smell of the circuit board and the tight sweat smell. Yu Yan tugs the control rod and buzzes the hidden force field and adds the drama. They bite tightly. The patrol network in the neutral area is gone, but Cui Hao's main force in the flag is at the back, like a snail dog. Don't panic, Enxi held the data chip tightly, and the quantum signal accelerated like a rush. It is expected that they will not chase them hard. Cui Hao has a backhand. As the voice fell, a harsh static electricity burst out in the communication channel, and an encrypted image was connected to the connection. Chui Hao's face appeared, the background was the Imperial Mother's wave bridge, and the light was as cold as ice. The corners of his mouth twisted, his reinforcement armor was still swaying, and his eyes were filled with resentment. Enxi, the game is over. Chui Hao's voice was like a knife scraping a metallic slap. Your lens module plan. Soaked in soup. But I have a better code. Image switching, a holographic picture unfolded. A middle-aged man was locked on the experiment platform. His face was familiar with Bai Yan, who was the engineer, and his body was covered with traces of energy burning. The surrounding area is a cool scene of slave labor in the Empire, with fragments of lost civilization scattered and workers digging like cows. Yu Yan's face turned pale, and her backpack slid from her hands, hitting the ground and making a fuss. Brother! Chui Hao, you beast! She rushed to the console, smashing her fist on the panel, and her voice trembled, let him go. This has nothing to do with Eun-hee. Chui Hao laughed loudly, and in the image he snatched his hand. An agent poked the man with a stick, and he snorted and fell to the ground with a sizzling sound. Not care. Your reinforced gold finger is the feeling of squeezing him. He dug in Zerta for 3 years to resurrect the void scene for the Empire. Want to save him? Hand over the shield prototype and come to the mother's house to talk. Otherwise, he will die first and then you're home, Karen. The communication was broken, leaving only the silence of the buzz. Yu Yan sat on the chair, with a slim water sliding off her mask, and her voice was as low as the ears, I can't drop him. The message was chosen for me for this moment. But Chui Hao's mother was the mobile castle in the Empire, and the security was like an iron bucket. Enxi squatted down, held her hand, and the heat in her palm was as stable as a shield. The team's eyes gathered, Li Cheng stopped welding in his hands, and the oil on his face mixed with grief. Girl, why are you crying? We are a team. Chui Hao wants to play code. Let him see the firepower of the Alliance. His words were like fire, illuminating the atmosphere in the car. Enxi pointed his head and felt warm inside. Yu Yan's fragility reflects her past like a mirror, the pain of not being able to protect the home. But now, this emotional support is like fuel, quantum signals flip inside the body, and the predicted pattern is clearer. She stood up and said, we're going to save people. It's not hard, it's dive. Chui Hao's mother stopped at the edge of the neutral area, and predicted that the road shows that there is a hidden repair channel and can escape the security of the master. Li Cheng, and hack into their system. Yu Yan, your emotions are the source of strength. After saving your brother, we will wake up the shield together. Chui Hao, you're determined this time. The starship quietly turns, and the engine switches to low-power modes, like a ghost sliding into a neutral zone undercurrent. 2 hours later, their ships docked invisibly on the belly of the mother's ship, a giant turtle, 2 kilometers long, with a black and gray hull covered with muzzles, and the surface was filled with the retracted energy. Enxi put on a mask and carried the prototype. The 3 teams of the team pulled out of the repair boots. The magnetic boots were attached to the cold metal, and their feet were silent. The air is filled with the pungent smell of motor oil and electricity, and the buzzing of no one around the world is like a whisper. The channel is at the lower level, Enxi said in a low voice, scanning ahead with a signal like thunderbolt, the route of the military patrol, the blind area of the laser network, and even Chui Hao's heartbeat position. She climbed into the narrow pipe, her knees grinding against the rough wall, and sweat slid down her spine. In 5 minutes, I went to the laboratory. Yu Yan, prepare to strengthen, be honest, implant virus. The pipes are as open as the winding opening, and they pry open the lattice and insert them into the lower corridor. The red lights were flashing, and 2 Imperial soldiers walked up, slamming their steps and slapped their boots, making heavy sounds when they stepped on the ground. And she narrowed her eyes, and she knew that the flash, the left troop will turn, and the right troop will be blind in 3 seconds. She yelled softly, now. She swept out like a shadow, and the shield source's energy was injected into the palm of her palm, turning into an invisible light blade. The first shot, I knew that the road was straight into the left hand in the throat. He hummed and fell to the ground. The smell of blood instantly spread, and the gun hit the ground and slammed the gun. The right soldier responded and the gun was moved, but Enxi had already realized that he would avoid it. He flashed his side and threw the light blade out, slashing his mask, and the glass shattered, and he knelt down. She didn't give her breath, kicked the gun, and hit her backhand energy, hit her breastplate with a burst of energy, and the armor melted, and he was as soft as a rag doll. The pleasure felt like current was swollen from the poke to the killing. This idea made her as slackened as a dancer, killing the two people cleanly and neatly, without a single warning. Fuck beautifully, Li Cheng said in a low voice, taking out the hacker device from his waistband, adsorbing it on the wall, and the screen flashes green. The system is invading. Mom, their firewalls are like iron plates. But I gave me 30 seconds, and the soldier's adjustments are all inappropriate. His fingers danced, the viruses scattered like insects, the lights on the mother's ship flickered, the corridor police stopped, and the patrol roads were reset. Yu Yan followed, her eyes were red and her heart firm. Thank you, Enxi. This emotion made me stronger. She pressed her backpack, strengthened the waves and injected Enxi's signal, and knew that the scope would be expanded. As the team advanced, Enxi disintegrated another wave of security, for soldiers rushed out of the corner, and knew that the road was like a map. She climbed to the ceiling, and the magnetic boots were absorbed, and the light blades from the sky were connected to two people, and the blood was sprayed. When landing, the energy shield spread out, and the third person's bullet slammed, hitting the fourth person's abdomen, and the cracked inner body made the air coagulate. Killing 4 people, the bodies piled up like mountains, and she felt her ability to wake up while breathing. It was not cold-blooded killing, but courageousness in her guardianship, and emotional support was like an acquaintance, which made her turn from a watch to a full controller. The experiment room is in front, said Eun-hee, who was expected to speak in a low voice. The indoor lights were dazzling, the energy table was buzzing, and Yu Yan's brother, Yu Chen, was locked in the center, with a monitoring tube inserted into his body, and his face turned white as paper. The surrounding area is Chui Hao's experimental equipment, the prototype of the lens module slaughter and the void-devouring device. The wall is embedded with the Guardian clan's erosion fragments, and the runes are twisted and moved. Chui Hao stood beside the platform, with 10 agents lying, laser cannons accumulating energy, and the heat waves distorted the air. Come. Too naive. Chui Hao sneered, pressed the police, locked the door and rushed in. Super the prototype, otherwise you will be buried with me. Look at this, he activated the holographic linearity to show the energy core of the mother's ship, a heart of a lost civilization, which is being awakened in reverse. Tianyi's far-distance communication suddenly connected to Enxi's hidden channel. His voice in the holographic headphones was urgent, Enxi. That is the destructive heart of the Guardian clan, the forbidden weapon of the lost civilization, which can awaken the black hole chain of the Silver River and swallow the entire galaxy. The Empire took it, merged the void lens, and wanted to reshape the order of the universe and make all civilizations surrender. Historical records, the Guardian clan uses it to destroy itself and end the internal war. Now, Chui Hao wants to resurrect it, and the alliance is completely destroyed. Hurry up, activate the internal energy of the ship, and reverse. Enxi's heart sank into the bottom of the valley, and even greater dangers came like mountain pressure. But Yu Yan's brother murmured, Sister, go quickly. The sound was like a shock. She turned to look at Yu Yan, and the latter had a swaying eyes and tightened her fists. Enxi, let's go together. Emotions flowed in, and Enxi felt that the quantum signal was fully awakened. He knew that it was not just a path, but a fusion. She growled, Team, believe me. She turned out and realized the complete picture, agent position, energy flow, runes. She pushed towards the wall, pressed the embedded fragments, injected the prototype energy into her palm, and activated the awakening mode. Blue light burst out like a tide, generating a local shield. The space was twisted, and the red beam of the laser cannon hit the blue net, blasted into a fireball, and exploded 3 agents. The debris hit the ground like rain, and the burnt smell spread. Cui Hao was surprised and retreated. How is the shield field inside the ship? Enxi controlled the field to expand, like an invisible giant hand swallowing the experiment room. The lens module exploded over the load, the flames penetrated the sky, the prototype of the void collapsed, the energy vortex backfired the agents, the 5 people were electrocuted into a focal terrain by the blue arc, and they were called rebirth. Reciprocatingly, Enxi felt the peak of feeling, awakening from personal perception to the team's storm. This comprehensive force is like the embrace of the universe, making her invincible. Li Ji's hacker virus broke out simultaneously, the mother ship system was invaded, the door was turned on, and the police reported, "Invade. The energy core is unstable." He shouted, "Enxi, the shield field is connected to my virus," and exploded their engines. Eun-hee rushed towards her brother, strengthened the backpack and injected the energy tube, and pulled out the lion. "Brother, wake up. We are here." Eun-hee slimmed his eyes and smiled weakly. "Sister, you have become stronger." At this moment, the team trusted each other like shield networks peak, and Enxi's field protected them, and turned the prisoner. The remaining agents knelt on the ground. Cui Hao tried to escape, but the blue network was tightened, like an iron prison to trap him. "Cui Hao, your destructive heart. Let's dream." Eun-hee looked at him coldly, foreseeing that the mother's ship was about to explode. She activated the final thrust, the shield destroyed the core of the experiment room, and the explosion locks tear apart from the inside, and the fireball swallowed Cui Hao's scream. The team dragged Eun-hee to retreat, and some shields opened their way, killing the soldiers in the end. The light blade flashed, and the 3 of them fell to the ground, bloodied. They rushed back to the starship, and the engine bore was pulled up, and the mother ship turned into a fireball behind them, and the fragments scattered into the air like smoke. Inside the carriage, Eun-hee leaned against Eun-hee and gasped, "Thank you, the Empire's plan is even more terrifying." The heart of the destruction connects the core of the Silver River. They want to wake up the black hole chain and swallow the entire territory of the Alliance. Enxi clicked and saw the signal after waking up, and gently said, "We will stop it. Team, the family is waiting." Eun-hee hugged her brother, clapped her shoulders and laughed, "No enemy, boss. Mutual trust is like a galaxy, and the shadow of the crisis in the Silver River is deeper, but their steps are already the guardian light of the universe." Terms, 1263. The blue tail flame of the starship stretched in the undercurrent of the Silver River arm. Enxi leaned against the scenic window, holding the data chip tightly with both hands, and the ruined shadows on it slightly burst out like a gate. The air inside the tank still retains the burnt smell of the mother's explosive air, mixed with the disinfectant of the medical capsule, making people unable to breathe. Eun-hee lay on the temporary hospital bed. Eun-hee was standing beside him, her palms gently sucking his sides, strengthening the warmth of the backpack as gentle as a mother's love. His face was red and red. The monitoring tube implanted by the Empire had been roughly removed by Li Cheng. Now only a little drop of energy is left to supplement the lights. "Brother, wake up," said Eun-hee in a low voice. The trembling in the voice had turned to a certainty, "We have rescued you. That bastard Cui Hao has been destroyed." Eun-hee opened his eyes quietly, his white pupils reflected on the lamp, and a weak smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Sister, you have grown up." "Enxi, thank you. The experience of the Empire. I have dug for 3 years, guarding the heart of the protectors. They call it, destroy the heart, but its essence is the core of the quantum network. It is not a destruction, it is a connection. It can connect all the rivers of the Silver River and protect the entire universe from the collapse of the black hole." Enxi's heart beat faster, and the quantum signal scattered like current. She approached the hospital bed, pressed the chip on her palm, and the blue picture rushed into the brain like a tide, the runes of Karen, the upgraded module of Zelda, and the broken heart fragments of the mother's ship, all of which were tangled into a giant net. "Connect, Silver Quantum Network," she murmured, her heart trembling, expanding from the perspective of a personal hero. The yellow sand in the home is no longer the end, this is the call of the universe, guarding is not only the alliance, but the fate of the Silver River. Li Qing pulled out of the back, carrying a bunch of circuit boards in his hand, full of oily face, and smiled like a big boy. Boss, the starship is being upgraded. I just slaughtered a little good stock from the mothership, the Empire's invisible engine module. After I soldered it in, the speed doubled. The anti-war network can borrow your shield energy. Cui Hao's dog legs catch up. Let them eat their tail. Tianyi's communication suddenly came in, and the holographic image appeared. He was no longer an old man from the file library, but was wearing an Alliance uniform, with the background of the Central Star Field's guide bridge, and the lights were cold. Children, I'm here. High-level shock, Cui Hao's inner ghost plan was exposed, and I took a team to clear the inside of the Alliance. I have verified the ultimate secret of the Guardian clan. The shield is not a single weapon, it is the key of the quantum network, which can connect all the zodiacs, generate silver-level powerhouses, seal black hole channels, and protect civilization from the devouring ambitions of the Empire. Enxi clicked his head and felt the team biting like a wheel. Tianyi's addition was like a torch from the instructor, illuminating the mist. Consultant, where is Cui Hao? His remaining strength. Tianyi's eyes narrowed, the holographic star opened, and the red spots spread like a plague on the neutral zone. He was not dead. The escape rescued him, and now gathered the internal rebels of the Empire, those who were not as strong as the Emperor. Cui Hao, the mirror module, could allow them to overthrow the old order. But internal conflicts have already arisen, the Imperial fleets are split, and half of them will want to discuss. Our opportunity is here. Yu Yan suddenly stood up, hugged her brother, and the water slid down and turned into strength. Brother, tell them. The slave labor camp in the Empire, I saw the record, the internet blueprint of the Guardians, which was twisted into a tool of destruction. But reunited with you, I felt, the reinforcement is not just energy, it is the elves. Her backpack was golden, and a warm current injected into Enxi's signal. The emotions were like fuel, making the predicted mode deeper. Enxi felt that her heart was turned, from the lone wolf guarding Karen to the watcher of the universe. The pain in the home and the slightness of the verbal spirit all turned into the fire of responsibility. She whispered, we not only save people, but also save the Silver River. Teachers, share knowledge, we upgrade the shield. Tianyi pointed at the head and sent a string of historical data. The files of the Guardians were like a torrent of the rivers rushing into Enxi's brain. The lost civilization once used quantum networks to fight against the Silver Storm. The guard shield is its core, and it is like a neural element, which can predict the collapse of black hole chains and distort space seal's invasion. Enxi closed her eyes and integrated the thread, Karen's native signal, Zerta's module, and fragments of the heart of ruining the heart, all blend into one. The inner self is as white as the galaxy. From week to this, I am no longer a hero, but the embodiment of guardianship. The sense of mission was like a blue light bursting out, and she slided her eyes. Network mode, activate. The star of the ingenious star was buzzing, and he rushed into the driving force, and the sparks of the welded gun were 4 times. It's done. The shield is connected to the entire ship, the network is expanded, Silver River level. The star of the star was like an arrow, the engine was swept out of the neutral area, the engine was hot and waved, and the gray fog outside the window was scattered, revealing the shadow of the Imperial warriors. 30 warships, Cui Hao's flag was in the middle, the black and gray hull was moving with the repelling energy, and the muzzle was filled with red light. Cui Hao's communication was connected with the force, his image was distorted, his face was still damaged, and his eyes were like a poisonous snake. Enxi, you destroyed my mother's ship, but the overall attack of the Empire has been launched. The rebels join, we block the Alliance channel, and the black hole chain is about to wake up. Surrender, your network dream. Let's crush it. The Imperial fleet was like a pack of wolves. The first wave of rain was pouring out, the fire-tail plot broke through the empty space, and the hot waves twisted the space. Enxi stood up, pushed forward with both hands, and the shield prototype burst into blue light in his palm. Team, believe me. Yu-yen injected intensified, and his brother's erectile dysfunction led to the output peak. The star straw net was expanded, like extending the body. Tianyi shared the final knowledge, the injected network password, and she felt that the universe was synchronized. Network mode, link. She growled, and the blue light like a spider net emerged from the starship, instantly scattering into the Silver River quantum field, touching all the deadly points in the neutral zone. The space rises, runes lit up like stars, and the guard shield turns into an invisible giant net, blocking the entrance of the black hole chain, which is a sway, and the guide is like a wall into a blue bulb. The energy is swallowed and reverses into a vortex direct attack source. The first wave of 10 Imperial vessels touched the hull was shaking, and the inside was exploding and locking, the fireballs were scattered like smoke, and the fragments were rolling in the air, which made Enxi's blood boil. Invincible, not fantasy, but reality. Before Cui Hao's flag was thrust, the void lens module was activated, and the black hole was thrust like a huge mouth, trying to tear the network apart. But Enxi knew the flash path. She controlled the giant network to collect and connect the energy backfire. The lens was like a collapse. Cui Hao's hull was as if it was smashed by an invisible punch, the engine melted, and the warning was made, impossible. Rebel, start fire. Internal conflicts broke out in the Empire. The rebels were leading the news, and a rough sound came out. Cui Hao, where is your mirror image? This is a trap. Half of the fleet was hesitant, the sisters-in-law and the laser cannons shot each other, the red light flew, and the explosion shocked the starship. Enxi seized the opportunity, and Tianyi's knowledge guided, injected into the network password, affecting their escape engine. She shouted softly, the blue network was like a virus that penetrated into the Imperial system, and the runes reversed, the energy field of the rebel army, which automatically closed the muzzle and turned to lock Cui Hao's loyal faction. Betray! Cui Hao roared, the flagship was isolated and helpless, and the bullet was swallowed by the giant net, and it turned into a blue arc and hit the bridge directly. The harsh sound of the shattered glass came from the communication. His image was flashing, covered in blood on his face. Enxi, you won this game. But the Emperor's ultimate plan, the black hole chain has been started, and the core of the Silver River is waiting. The climaxes began to occur. Enxi's network blocked multiple channels, the Imperial slaughtered everywhere, and the rebels connected the surrender signal of the leader, Alliance, we misunderstand Cui Hao. The network is to guard, not to destroy. Ceasefire. The internal conflict was resolved like a tide receding, and Cui Hao's flag was swollen into the edge of the black hole, and the flames swallowed his final curse. The team burst into great pleasure, and the team shouted and slapped the table, Boss, it's amazing. The starship is like a living, crushing them like stepping on a snail. Yu-yen hugged her brother and smiled in a slight smile, the joy of reunion has strengthened me to the limit. Enxi, you are our guardian. Yu-chen pointed out, the network has connected my memory, the fate of the core of the Silver River, waiting for you. The final conflict is there. Tianyi's image is determined, the high level has moved, and the alliance teams have gathered. We go to the core of the Silver River to stop the black hole chain. But Cui Hao's remaining party may have a backup plan. Eun-hee, from personal to universe, this transformation, you did it. The starship accelerates, the blue net is moving, the galaxy channel outside the window is closed like an iron wall, the shadow of the Silver River is deeper, but Enxi's eyes are as vast as the internet. The final battle is waiting in the core. Terms, 1245. The starship's engine roared in the undercurrent in the core of the Silver River, like a giant running wild, tearing the gray fog in the air. Enxi stood in front of the driving, pressing her hands on the console, and the quantum signal flew through her brain like a galaxy, beware of the pathways being intersected like countless light wires. Outside the window, the edges of the black hole chain were shaking, and the twisted space was like a giant breathing, swallowing and spitting the surrounding stars, causing the lights in the ceiling to flicker and dark. The air was filled with the pungent smell of electricity, mixed with the disinfectant of the medical capsule, and the low breath of Yu-chen's breath came from behind, making the team's atmosphere like a tight bowstring. The core is approaching, Yuyen stared at Leda, her short hair was blown by the air, and her voice was rarely seen. The sealed net of the Empire is like an iron bucket, but your blue net has half a passage. Cui Hao, that bastard, must be waiting in the head. Eun-hee clicks her head and feels the signal inside the body accelerates the movement, like the universe in the low language. She turned to look at the team, Yu Yan's calm eyes, Li Cheng's rough movements of wiping the toolbox, Yu Chen's weak support points, Tian Yi's holographic images are flashing beside them, and white hair is like silver. We are not the intruders, but the guardians, she said, with a rock-solid voice. Cui Hao's loneliness. Let him come. I know, the activation point of the forbidden technology is in the heart. Li Ji blew a whistle and looked up from behind. Boss, the Star Wires network is stable. The module I welded borrows the heart fragment of the destruction. Now the blue network can cover the entire core area. Cui Hao wants to play with fire. We burn them without leaving any armor. Yu Chen coughed and stood up, Sister, Enxi. Be careful. That taboo device is not a simple weapon. It is the end gate of the Guardian clan, which can awaken the black hole chain and swallow the energy of the Silver River. But by turning it back, it can seal the Empire forever. The starship was slamming down, and the engine was swept into the last Imperial powerhouse, shaking the ripples in the air. They walked out of the door, and the magnetic boots were attached to the outer shell of the wings, a giant structure, like the spine of a lost civilization, with twisted runes on the surface, moving with the retracted blue light. The air was as thin as a prick of skin, and the low birds of the black hole far away were like thunder, making Enxi's eardrum buzz. The team was in a dive, and the pace was silent. Enxi was in the lead, and he knew it was like Leda scan. Cui Hao's hot source was deep, accompanied by the signs of energy explosion. The entrance, Enxi said in a low voice, pressing the rune wall with his palm, and the quantum signal was injected, and the blue picture was flooded. She turned around easily and reversely, and the stone door retreated like water waves, revealing a dark passage. The inside is damp and hot, the metal smell is mixed with ozone, and the wall runes are as flashing as scars. Suddenly, a red light lit up in the hall ahead, and Cui Hao's roar was like saying, "Come." It's so annoying. Cui Hao stood on the central sacrificial fortress, his enhancing armor was full of scorched marks, and his eyes were red like wild animals. He was surrounded by the Imperial warlord, with 5-man teams lying, laser cannons accumulating energy, and heat waves distorted the air. At the core of the fort, an obsidian-like device, the final door, the buzzer starts, and the cracks in the space open, like a huge mouth sucking black fog, the irrigation of the black hole chain begins to ignite, the shaking of the small space, and the stone chips fall like rain. Enxi, your network. Childish. Cui Hao laughed and pressed the activation key. As soon as this door opens, the entire Silver River energy will be in the Empire. The Emperor's ambition, Cui Hao, come to realize it. Enxi's heart sank, and he knew that it was like a flash in the flash. The whole picture of the Eun-hee Hao not only revived the device, but also implanted a lens virus to try to reverse the control of her quantum signal, allowing the blue network to destroy itself. The black hole was swept like a tide, the first crack teared open the wall, the suction force was like a giant hand pulling the team, and the low thorn in the air made people dizzy. But Eun-hee refused to retreat, and her heart was as unrelenting as fire. From the sand of Karen to here, I am no longer a victim. This crisis is my trial. With a steel will, she growled, "Team, scatter. Predict the mode, open all." Quantum signals finally wake up, like the torrent of the universe injecting into the brain, and Enxi's sensory ability and will merge, no longer direct, but full control. Her eyes burst into blue light, and she knew that the path was like a god's eye, locking Cui Hao's every step, the virus's upstream path, the device's energy flow, and even the hesitation that would lead. She took the initiative to counterattack, pushing forward with both hands, and the shield source prototype moved in the palm of her palm. Devouring mode, start. The blue net emerged from the body, spreading like a living thing, instantly covering the large hall. The space was twisted, and the black hole crack hit the blue light, reducing speed like a wall entering the swamp. What? Cui Hao was shocked. The laser cannon opened fire, and the red beam was like rain, but Enxi controlled the network and knew that the bullet was easily distorted, and it rolled into a blue arc, and it hit the sequel. The three men's armor melted, and they fell to the ground with a scent of blood. The remaining two tried to enclose the picture. Their side was flashed, and the blue net was tightly locked like a fist, hitting their knees, and their bones were cracked and shattered. The pleasure was like electric current swelling, and Enxi felt fearless, facing the cosmic crisis. This fusion made her look like a god, devouring the energy of the taboo device as relaxed as drinking water. Cui Hao retreated and activated the virus, slide, anti-control. A black fog emerged from the end gate, straight into Enxi's blue network, and tried to get the message. But she had already predicted that her will was like a shield and said, "Don't think about it." The blue net backlashed, the virus was swallowed like a claw, the energy torrent turned backwards, and the end of the door was buzzing. The black hole collapsed, the cracks shattered like glass, and the fragments scattered like star fogs. Cui Hao's enhancing armor was slashed by the blue arc, his chest was charred, and he knelt on the ground and vomited blood. "Impossible, how do you see through it?" When Yen saw the fort on the plain, and her backpack was golden and bright, Enxi, borrow the power. She injected the reinforcement output, and her emotions were as thick as fuel, causing the blue net to explode. The output doubled, and the network was like a huge wave rushing towards Cui Hao. Enxi clicked the head, and the team understood the same tacitly. One hit, end. She controlled the blue net to condense into a light spear, knowing Cui Hao's flashing path, and the strengthening of the Yuyan made the spear tip burn as hot as the sun. Cui Hao tried to get up and shot out the gun, but Eun-hee easily twisted and her spear pierced his core control module, the communication chip that the Empire will lead. Ah! Cui Hao cried, the module shattered, and the blue light entered the Imperial network, scattering like a virus. The whole shaking, Cui Hao's image collapsed in the holographic circle. Rebel. No! The leader's communication exploded, and the remaining force instantly turned against him. Cui Hao betrayed the Emperor. Network control, alliance. The Imperial control power was taken away like a tide, and the end of the door was finally destroyed. The black hole chain was blocked, the space was restored to a calm state, leaving only a low bale. Li Qing rushed forward, and the toolbox was slammed. He knelt on the sacrificial forum, and welded the sparks of guns. "Let me come and repair this shovel." Sweat dripped on the panel, and he shouted, "The network is damaged, but borrowing Enxi's blue network, I can reconnect. Look at this, the stable device of the Guardian clan. The Empire is twisted, I will turn back." Within a few minutes, the runes were steadily stable, the silver quantum network jumped like a heart, the blue light was like a galaxy surround the hall, the air was fresh, and the smell of ozone dissipated. Tian Yi's holographic image lit up, and he flew with white hair, and his voice was as soft as the elders. "Children, do well. I finally understand the ambition of the protectors. They are not destroyers, but foreseers. Quantum network is originally intended to block black holes and protect the Silver River from collapse. But the greed of the Empire is twisted into weapons. Enxi, your fusion, is their choice. From weak archaeologists to cosmic guardians, this will allow the network to last forever." Enxi took back the blue net, stood calm while gasping, feeling that her ability and will were the same as the blue light, and she no longer shook her face in the danger of the universe. The warm current in my heart, Karen's sand, the sleight of the sage, and the laughter of the team all turned into strength. "Teacher, thank you." But Cui Hao's Emperor, finally decided, and was still deep in the core of the Silver River. Although the black hole chain was sealed, the remaining waves were not settled. Yu Yan helped his brother up, his eyes fixed. "We will join us. Strengthen the output, because I am not afraid of you." Yu Chen pointed, "The network has connected my memory, the Emperor's castle, right next to the black hole." Li Qing patted the toolbox. "Fixed, boss. Starship is at full speed, rush." Cui Hao's desperation was scattered by the blue net. He panted and glared at Enxi. You won this game. But the Emperor's ultimate guard, the King of Black Hole, will swallow you. Enxi sneered, foreseeing the final path. Let it come. I'm ready. The team was on board, and the engine was rushing, and the blue net led the way. The shadow in the core of the river was deeper. The Emperor's fortress was like a giant beast, indicating the final fire. Terms, 1246. The blue tail flame of the starship pierced into the chaos around the black hole like a sharp sword. Enxi held the edge of the console tightly, and the twisted space outside the window creeped like a living creature, swallowing dark energy, making the lights in the stack unstable. The quantum signal was like a craze in her brain, and I knew that the road was filled with a giant net. The Emperor's castle was hidden in the black hole ring. A floating castle was surrounded by blue ruins of the lost civilization. The pungent smell of electricity was filled with the air, mixed with the buzz of the backloading medical capsule, and the breath of Yu-chen made the team's atmosphere like a tight string. The castle is approaching. Yu-yen turned her head, her short hair stuck to the sweaty magnitude, and the lights of the reinforced backpack reflected her face. The power of the Empire is like a crazy dog, and Rada shows 20 guardrails lying around. Choi Hao's guy was driven behind us, but he was still murmuring about some virus code. Eun-hee, what do you think? Enxi clicked and felt the signal inside her body as stable as fire. She glanced at the monitoring screen behind the wheel. Choi Hao was deprived of energy, his eyes were red, and the corners of his mouth were twisted into a mockery arc. He wanted to fight back in the end, but the blue network had blocked half of the black hole chain. Team, we are not waiting for the Alliance army to break the fortress first and rescue the captured Alliance members. Yu-chen, has your memory progressed? Yu-chen stood up, and a burst of force appeared on his white face. Yu-yen held him with her eyes full of concern. Enxi, there is a ghost guardian of the Guardian clan in the depths of the fortress, not a ghost, but an AI soul, a defense program for lost civilization. The Empire takes it and twists it into a ghost virus, which can manipulate black hole energy and devour invaders. But if you connect in the network mode, it will recognize you as the inheritor. Li Cheng looked out from behind the project desk, and the welding gun in his hand was still emitting smoke. He grinned with oil. It sounds like a science fiction movie, but my upgraded module can stabilize the starship. The blue network is fully opened. The Imperial Guard? Let them taste the backlash. Tian-Yi's holographic image was flashing beside him, and with white hair he pointed, Children, I stay in the Alliance for the Steel Monitor. Enxi, your growth has exceeded my expectations. Go, I will teach you the last knowledge. The starship was slammed, and the engine slammed the wall, hitting the first field of protection. The Imperial fleet was like a pack of wolves, and the red light of laser cannons shot, and the heat waves were twisted in the air. The first guard locked them, the guide door opened, and the fire tail was like a swarm of bees. Enxi shouted in a low voice, Blue network, open. She pushed forward with both hands, and the quantum signal was injected into the prototype. The blue light was like a spider's sieve from the starship, and a local shield network was generated in an instant. The space rose, and the guide bumped into the blue net. The energy was swallowed and turned back into a vortex and directly hit the launch source. The ship was shaking, and the fireballs exploded inside were released. The debris hit the companions like rain, and they all blew up and swallowed 3 ships. Fuck beautifully. Li Ji shouted, and the toolbox was ding. He pulled to the console and injected the virus module. My contribution is here, half of the Imperial communication network, they have a sister-in-law. In the screen, the slaughter teams were in a group, and several began to shoot each other, red lights flying, and the explosion caused the black hole to shake. They broke through the lock, the starship was attached to the shell of the fortress, and the magnetic boots stepped on the cold metal, making their feet soundless. Enxi's head dived into the side door, the passage was as dark as a tunnel, the wall runes were moving, and the air was tied and the smell of metal was smelly. Suddenly, the ghostly threat appeared, blue phantoms emerged from the wall, like the AI guardian of the lost civilization, distorted into the form of the virus of the Empire, the ghostly energy body, invisible and incompetent, the touching hand stretched out like a fog, and the suction force pulled the air, causing a low buzz. Be careful. Eun-hee shouted. Her backpack was full of golden light, and she injected the blue net that strengthened the waves into Enxi, and the energy flowed into the river. The ghost toucher swung towards the team, and the first slut was on the leg of the ingenious leg. He lowered his spell and the tool gun shot out an electromagnetic slam, sparking 4 times, only allowing it to retreat. This thing looks like a ghost, sucking energy. Enxi knew the future of the road. The core of the ghost is the rune. In front of her, she pressed her palm on the wall, and the quantum signal was injected like a key. Network mode, link. The blue light burst out, the runes responded like a heartbeat, the ghost phantom stopped, and the sound of the AI soul slayed in the brain. The inheritor, the empire twisted me, and thirsted for black hole energy. Purify me and protect the silver river. And she felt that his will was like a bridge, easily resolved the virus shape, and the ghost turned into a pure blue fog, integrated into her blue network, strengthening the predicted range. The crisis resolved like a tide, and she smiled in her breath. It recognizes me. Team, go forward. The deep dive, the Emperor's fortress core, a circular dome, the king of black holes floating in the center, the ultimate device, which moves black fog, and the cracks in the space open like huge mouths. Cui Hao has been escorted, kneeling beside the device, storming the ring and accumulating energy. The Emperor's image holographic appearance appeared, a man with an old man with a stern face. The background is the Imperial palace. Enxi, you destroyed Cui Hao's plan, but the king of black hole has woken up. The energy of the silver river, the entire empire. Cui Hao suddenly laughed, his eyes flickered and said, Emperor, you are too naive. He snatched away. It turned out that it was a fake, and the implanted quantum virus exploded from the body, like a black fog, directly sucking Enxi's blue net. Viruses are like living creatures, rotting the network. Blue light is distorted, predicting the path is blurred, black hole cracks expand, suction is like a storm pulling the team, stone chips fly, and hot waves burn the skin. This is my last anti-repellent. Slides like a virus, swallowing your message and letting the blue network destroy itself. Silver River, let me bury it. Enxi's heart sank, and the virus stormed the brain like a demon, flashing back to Karen's yellow sand and powerless days. But the sound of the team was like an anime. Eun-hee shouted, Enxi, persevere. My strengthening is borrowed from you. The golden light was injected, and the emotions were as bright as fire. Li Qing shouted, virus path, I'm in the dark. Look at my module, reverse. His tool gun shot out the electromagnetic network, causing the virus to rush. Tiany's image was urgent. Child, the last knowledge, the pure password of the Guardian clan, and use your will to merge. Data torrents rushed into Enxi's brain. The transformation of growth is like a flash, from the archaeologist in the border area to here. She returns to the journey, the awakening of quantum signals, the purity of the vernacular, the smile of the vernacular, the teaching of Tiany, and the reunion of the vernacular, all turned into the shield of the inner heart. Powerless? No, that's the starting point. She growled, virus, you can't swallow me. The quantum gold finger woke up completely, and her will exploded like a blue light. She took the initiative to purify, the reorganization of the road, integrating Tiany's password, Li Qing's reverse turn, and the strengthening of the word yen. The virus melted like ice and snow, and the black fog disappeared. The pleasure is like a tide, and she pushes forward with both hands, and the universe-level shield network is generated. The blue light spreads like a silver river, spreads out from the fortress, covering the entire black hole ring. The space is stable, the cracks are blocked, the black hole king Amph collapses, the energy backs the emperor's image, and the palace holographic shatters. Impossible! Cui Hao screamed, the virus backlash made his body arc radiate. He fell to the ground and twitched, his eyes dim. Enxi, you win. The monk knelt down and surrendered. The fortress police stopped, leaving only the gentle movement of the blue net. Tiany's image suddenly flashed, and he whispered like coughing blood, Enxi, the knowledge has been passed down. The will of the Guardian clan is within your body. Alliance, I guard the back. The image faded, a sacred inheritance. He cut off the connection, and the fire of the explosion of the remote pointer flashed from the communication, and he used his last energy to storm the Empire's backup. The team was silent for a moment, and Eun-hee felt ache in her heart. Teacher. Thank you. Yu-yen suddenly grabbed a chip from the end of the data, and her eyes lit up. Enxi. Family traces are all. My brother's memory link to the fortress file. Dad was transferred to a safe area in the colony of the Empire, not a mist, but a protection plan. The complete coordinates are here. She hugged the chant and smiled in a slight smile. We can pick them up home. And she relaxed his voice, and the blue net took it back. She turned into a hug team, and the joy of the victory was like a warm current, from the sand of Karen to the core of the Silver River. This road is more to you. Yu-yen, your impulse, honesty, your reliability. Yu-chen, your thread, the inheritance of the teacher. I am no longer that powerless girl, the guardian of the universe. When the Empire collapsed, we won this battle. But the Emperor's remaining party is still dormant in the depths of the black hole. Together, end it. Li Qing patted her on the shoulder and laughed. Boss, Cosmic Shield Network. Next time I repair the starship, I will add a plaque. Yu-yen pointed. Family reunites, strengthen me more. Yu-chin smiled. The network will last forever. They boarded the load, the engines turned on again, and the blue net light illuminated the edge of the black hole. The skeletons of the Emperor Castle went away behind me. The piece of the Silver River first appeared like blue light, but the shadow of the final decision was approaching quietly. Terms, 1252. The engine of the starship was like a low war drum, rumbling in the air deep in the black hole. And she stood in front of the scenic window, her hands lightly shaking the shield source prototype, and the crystal blue light reflected on her face, like the low words of the Silver River. Outside the window, the fragments of the Emperor's castle scattered like meteors, and the edges of the black hole ring were still twisting slightly, and the remaining energy ripples made the air in the pile slightly vibrate. Cui Hao was taken to the energy prison of the back, and occasionally his murmur curse was transmitted, but his eyes were gone, leaving only the tired shadow. Yu-yen supported her brother Yu-chen, and the two of them talked in a low voice, strengthening the warmth of the backpack as the warm current of family reunion. Li Qing wiped the toolbox, his hands were filled with oil, and grinned and checked Xinjiang's network movement. Boss, the signal deep in the black hole is stable. Li Qing came over and patted her on the shoulder, with a rough and reliable voice. Your blue network has blocked 80% of the channels, and the Empire's remaining party is like a fish from the leaking network, hiding in the core. The Emperor's fortress is just a cover, and the real goods are in it. I scanned the energy peak, like a big bomb. And she pointed at the head. The quantum signal rushed into the brain like a tide, and the road was as clear as a palm print. Finally, the lost temple in the core of the Silver River, where the Guardians originated. The Empire Party tried to use the last fragments of the Black Hole King to wake up the swallowing chain and destroy the Alliance's border galaxy. She took a deep breath of the air inside the metal-smelling stockings and turned to look at the team. We'll go and end it. Cui Hao, give you the last chance. Tell us the Emperor's backhand, otherwise the black hole will swallow you. The rear door opened. Cui Hao was pushed forward, his reinforced armor was covered with cracks, and his face was as white as paper. He glared at Enxi and said, Did you think you win? The Emperor's remaining party has 20 core ships guarding the temple. They have implanted the reward virus of the Guardians, which can distort the quantum network and let your blue network backfire itself. Silver River Crisis. It's not over, it's my revenge. Yu-yen snorted coldly and held his brother's hand tightly. Revenge? Look at how many gardens you have destroyed. My family, are you still in the blood debt you owe? Yu-chen pointed at the head, and the weak determined, Cui Hao, the ambition of the Empire has begun since I dug out. The Guardians are not enemies, their quantum signals are gifts to future generations, the key to protecting the Silver River. Cui Hao's eyes flashed through a silk silence, and then she captured the expected turn. She stepped forward and her voice was as calm as sand. You are not a monster, but a pawn used by the Emperor. Join us and punish us. I understand the pain of the home, Karen's yellow sand buried my parents. But revenge will only make the Silver River die again. Cui Hao lowered his head, remained silent for a moment, and finally murmured, the entrance to the temple is in the third cleft in the black hole ring. The core rune of the virus is the Order of the Anti-Guard Protectors. I said, let me go. Enxi pointed, alliances are not prisoners. Team, prepare. The starship slid into the crack, the engine was swept with hot waves, the space was twisted like a huge wave, and the black fog outside the window made people's stomachs turbulent. They walked out of the door, and the magnetic boots were attached to the outer shell of the temple, an ancient giant structure, like the crown of a lost civilization, runes like stars, and thin air with the sting of current. The Imperial Party's guardrail was like a bird spiraling, and the laser red light shot out. The first heat beam hit Enxi's shoulders, burning like fire. Come! Li Ji shouted, the tool gun shot out the electromagnetic network, storing a protective gear engine, and the fireball was released in the air. The Sage Yen injected a reinforcement wave, and the golden light rushed into Enxi's blue network like a river. Stop it, Enxi. We are at the back. Enxi entered the entrance, knew that the way to guide her to avoid the laser trap, pressed the temple rune with her palm, and the quantum signal turned like a key, full network, activate. The blue light burst out, uncovered from the body, instantly connecting all the escapes, Karen's native junction, Zelda's upgrade, the fragments of the fortress, and the ambition to destroy the heart, all of them were integrated into one. The temple was buzzing, and the runes were like hearts pounding. Enxi felt that the universe was moving, the whole picture of the lost civilization was like a torrent flowing into the brain. They were the guardians of the Silver River. They foresaw the collapse of the black hole thousands of years ago, and used quantum signals to win future generations. It was not a weapon, but a peaceful network, connecting civilization, and blocking disasters. The Empire twisted it into a devouring tool, but now, she is the true inheritor. Deep in the hall, the head of the Emperor's party, an Iron Blood army, stood in front of the final sacrificial fortress. The energy of 20 core ships gathered, and the last fragments of the Black Hole King moved like a giant beast's heart, and the space rifts opened, swallowing the edges of the surrounding galaxies. The army sneered, Enxi. Your network is coming to die. He activated the virus, and the black fog came like a tide, trying to make the blue net, and knew that the road was blurred in an instant, and the crack pulled Enxi's boots, and the low wings were like ghosts crying. Cui Hao pulled out from his side, he had untied his restraint and joined the team, holding the gun from the starship in his hand. The army, you destroyed the Empire. He opened fire, hitting a soldier of the party, and the blood fog sprayed, transforming the pleasure of his allies made his eyes complex. Enxi seized the opportunity, and her will injected into the blue network like a steel, purify. She predicted the reorganization, and she controlled the network's counterturn virus. The blue light was like a huge wave and swallowed no black fog, the runes were restored in sequence, and the ambition of the Guardian clan was like a galaxy, and the network was awakened in full. Now! Enxi growled, and the enemy-free mode started. She pushed forward with both hands, and the cosmic shield exploded, like an invisible sea covering the temple, instantly exploding to multiple galaxies. The space was stable, the black hole cracks were like glass shattered, the core of the party was touching the net, the first wave of 10 ships shook, the energy was swallowed, and it turned into a blue arc and hit straight. The explosion was locked, the fireballs were like smoke, and the debris evaporated around the black hole. The refreshing feeling is like current flowing all over the body. Enxi feels the peak of the soul. From a weak archaeologist to a guardian who controls the lifespan of the Silver River, this power is not a destruction, but a rescue. She knew that the attack path of the army would easily distort the laser rain, backfired into a whirlpool, melting the army's bridge. He fell to the ground in shock. Impossible, what is the network? Li Cheng's virus module exploded simultaneously, and he shouted, Boss, borrow the power. The electromagnetic network blocked the remaining channels, and the remaining gates were scattered like dogs, and the sisters-in-law shot each other, and the red light flew. Yu Yen strengthened the output peak, and golden light poured into Enxi's blue network, family group gathers, I'm invincible. Her communication is connected to the seat. The Alliance rescue team has arrived at the edge of the colony, and the image of her parents, the whole family appears in the holographic view. The mother's purity water is like a star. Yen, we are safe. Thank you. The joy of the group is like a warm current, making Yuyan's enhancing waves more pure. The network firmly blocks the black hole chain and saves 3 galaxies that are about to collapse. The call of tens of thousands of spiritual spirits comes from the communication. Tiany's ambition suddenly came into contact with a pre-recorded holographic chip, transmitted from the guide. His image was flying with white hair and a gentle smile. Enxi, children, I have witnessed it. The favor of the guardians is in your hands. I have no regrets about the rebirth of the Shanhe River. The image faded away, accompanied by the loud voice of the Alliance team, and the gifts shone like the blue light ringing team. He knelt down and surrendered. Cui Hao stepped forward and held him down. It's over. Eun-hee, forgive me. I want to rebuild. Eun-hee clicked, and the blue network released him gently. Alliance, come from the head. The empire collapsed, and the Silver River needs a new order. The temple dome opened, the blue light fell like the sunrise, the network was permanently stable, and the black hole crisis was resolved. The starship returns, and the Alliance is rebuilt like spring winds. The galaxy on the edge is resurrected. On the yellow sand of Karen, new green buds break through the ground, and the children's laughter resounds. Enxi returned to her home, stood in the old building, with the wind and sand slapped the face, and the quantum signal was like a whisper of an old friend. She turned around and looked at the team. Yuyan hugged her parents and brother, smiling in a slight way. Li Qin practiced the new star and hummed a small song. Cui Hao was beside her, her eyes turned from resentment to determination. Tian Yi's ambition would last forever, and she witnessed this moment. From the days of digging sand to the protection of the universe, and she murmured, his heart full of peace and responsibility, we have done it. The home will last forever, and the river will be peaceful. Yuyan approached and shook her hand. Together, look forward to the future. Li Ji laughed. Who knows the next adventure? But with you, there is no enemy. Their eyes were turned to the starry sky, and the blue light of the new era will never fade.